across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. Yeah, just picking up the baton really from every other presenter on this station, because it is a big deal when we get a new Prime Minister, especially a Prime Minister that we don't really know. We're learning a little bit more about him every time he opens his mouth. We saw him without the lectern today. What does that mean? What is he trying to say with that bit of theatre? But what is going to be going on? We should hear tomorrow about some immediate help. He said, I can do something to give people breathing space now, some help with the cost of living. And that's what I want to talk to you about at midnight. I want to know from you, what should he do? Now, what he's talking about is something to do with energy prices and bus fares. Now, whilst they will help, of course, are they really going to be enough? Is it really going to give you the hope that he hopes he can give you? So I want to know what he should do if you think that Andy Burnham, because my concern is that he's making these big statements, I'm going to give you some breathing space. Well, to me, that sounds like raising the tax brackets, right, the tax levels, before you start paying tax. That sounds to me like £1,000. That's what he should do. If he want, but he can't afford to. If he wants to really come out of the gate and say, here's the hope you were looking for, you won't pay tax until, I don't know, £13,500. That's what he should be looking at doing. But bus fares and energy prices, I don't know whether that's going to actually achieve what it's going to cost, if you know what I mean by that. There's a lot of ins and outs, we know that, lots of new people in new jobs. Those people who weren't ministers before are going to see a roughly £67,000 pay rise, because that's the difference between an MP's salary and a minister's salary. So they're immediately going to be getting 67 grand pay rise. And those leaving those jobs, the ones that were fired or have been shuffled out, they will get a payoff of about £17,000. That's the usual thing. That's what they get when they lose their jobs. So that's what we're looking at the moment. But I do want to hear from you at midnight. I want you to tell me what would give you hope and what you are actually hoping he will deliver to you tomorrow in terms of of that breathing space that we all need at the moment. And do you have hope in a Burnham premiership? Do give me a call on that, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. The other question I have for you is rolling back the 1980s the right plan? Is that what we need to do in this country, is to roll back the Thatcher years? 0344 499 1000. Let me tell you what else is coming up on the programme. We've got Cody Darla back. He's the comedy writer and host of the Truth, in My Opinion podcast. He's been away because he's been writing a book, so we'll find out all about that as well. But he's coming back to us to go through the papers, which I can tell you, all of the papers that I have seen so far, all they're talking about is our new Prime Minister. We'll be trying to dig around and see if there's anything else we can bring you as well. We're going to be talking about the new Prime Minister on the international stage, as much as he wants to be here in the UK and not away as much as Keir Starmer. I wonder if he will actually manage that. He's also had phone calls with Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky and Emmanuel Macron. So we'll find out what that looks like. Amy Fisher is joining us to talk about about the what Andy Burnham is actually saying by not having a lectern, how he's going to be, what some of the things that he's saying, this business-friendly socialism, what it actually all means and how he's going to communicate all of that. But first, as we know, Andy Burnham has officially succeeded Keir Starmer as Prime Minister today, the 7th in a decade. In his inaugural speech in Downing Street, Burnham said Britain needs to show the world it can regain stability. He promised a new political and economic model, including measures to help people with the cost of living. His new cabinet has also been taking shape, with John Healey as a surprise into the job of the Chancellor. The former Defence Secretary, as we know, resigned last month in protest at Starmer's government's alleged underfunding of the Defence Investment Plan. And that was seen as really the shot that took the knees out from under Keir Starmer, with John Healey resigning, which paved the way for Andy Burnham to enter Downing Street. And plus, Ed Miliband has been appointed Foreign Secretary, one of the big jobs, one of the 4 big jobs of state, while Shabana Mahmood is to remain as Home Secretary. So that's just some of the changes. We've seen Wes Streeting actually go into number 10 and wondering what reward he's going to get for not challenging Andy Burnham. So here to discuss all of this with me is the fabulous John Boothman, political correspondent at the Sunday Times in Scotland. Another big day in politics, John. What did you make of it? What have you made of it so far?
Oh, look, I mean, it's a pretty incredible day if you think about it. You know, you've gone through a lot there. A different guy, a different vibe, a different style. You know, I was struck he didn't have a red tie for a Labour Prime Minister. He kissed his mum in Downing Street. When was the last time you seen a mum in Downing Street? I thought that was actually genuinely, well, quite different, quite interesting. We got a big insight into, you know, the policy changes, as you said, that he's certainly going to try. And I think it's fascinating to see, despite, you know, his calls with Trump and Zelensky and the like, the domestic focus of what he was saying in the speech. It was built around practical things that he said he hoped would make a difference. I have to say I'm very, very, very struck by the scale of the changes of personnel and the roles. OK, there's a lot of people coming back to different roles, but you've got to remember, you know, it takes a long time for people to get their feet under the table in new jobs. And, you know, if he wants to get off to a big and a quick and a successful start, the fact that he's got so many changes, I'm not sure is, you know, necessarily the right thing. We still, for example, also don't have a Defence Secretary. Is that something Rachel Reeves turned down, perhaps? Is that where we might see
Wes Streeting? Yeah.
And we haven't heard at all about, you know, the other person who was a big supporter of him right through this, his neighbouring Labour MP, Lisa Nandy. Is there something in there for her? But again, you know, Angela Rayner's back in her old job, Johnny Reynolds back in his old job. I find the scale of all those changes interesting, but I think the main thing, and you touched on a lot of it there, is just the policy stuff. You know, that big announcement at the end of ending rough sleeping, is it possible to end roughly sleeping?
This is a problem I think that Andy Burnham might have, is that I think that he wants to fix everything, but he wasn't even able to fix that in Manchester, and that is a big statement, right? And what, it's not just a case of giving people somewhere to stay. That's not how you end rough sleeping. There's a lot of mental health, there's a lot of physical health, there's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of, you know, other issues that surround rough sleeping. It's not as easy as just opening a hostel somewhere.
And a lot of money.
A lot of money.
All of
yeah.
these things as well. I'm always very, very wary of politicians. We talk in Scotland all the time about eradicating child poverty. I don't know whether it's possible to eradicate child poverty, but it's a big talk, big statement that politicians make. But that having been said, I think the stuff about energy prices, about bus fares, rent controls back in the agenda. Now, that's an interesting thing. That distorts lots of markets as well if they go down that road. But at least he's talking domestic policy, practical policy, when his predecessor was much criticised actually from what not here Keir, right, spending a lot of time on international affairs. So I think certainly a different kind of start, probably a positive start. The other thing, from the point of view of Labour MPs, though, it has to be said, is there was a wee bit of tough love, I think, in there. John Healey's appointment will stabilise the markets. I think a lot of people will be grateful that Ed Miliband's not there. But Labour MPs, there was a hint about getting welfare spending down in there. He did say he was going to continue to be committed to increasing defence spending. But look, as we've said before, new Prime Minister, same old problems. Where does the money come from?
And it was interesting. I was listening throughout the day and watching what was going on. And there was a question asked about, look, he can't. He's talking about bringing both sides of the party together. He's talking about we hear this all the time, a new style of politics, right? And somebody was saying, I wish I could remember who it was, said he can't please both the left and the right of the party, so he has to upset both sides of the party, which I thought was a really clever way of looking at it.
Well, look, you can please all of the people some of the time, some of the people all of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. And I think that's the balance he has to strike. That having been said, again, there is an imperative now, and I think although it's, 3 years or something until the next general election, Labour aren't doing so well in the polls. There's been a bit of a bounce. There are certainly, lots of local elections coming up, certainly next year. They are starting to get conscious that if you're going to drive through a big policy agenda, and a policy agenda that you hope is going to make a difference, that maybe that imposes a wee bit of discipline on them, maybe to support some of the things they haven't supported themselves. Like Burnham himself has said, I think on Friday, that this is Labour's last chance. And I think, that's really a warning to them that if not the Conservatives, who, look, to be fair, Kemi Badenoch's had a good few weeks. Nigel Farage, despite the fact he's had a bad few weeks, is still lurking there in the background.
Absolutely. Just to let you know, breaking news, Lisa Nandy retains her role as Culture, Media and Sports Secretary, and she'll now also return to cover the digital brief as well. So Lisa Nandy is a stick, not a twist. So she's going to be staying there. What do you make of Angela Rayner going back to the role of Housing Secretary? I mean, given the reason that she had to resign that role in the first place, and I know all of those tax affairs are now settled, but what do you make of it?
Look, I think it was inevitable she would be back. That they will just try and put behind them. It's a new Prime Minister, it's a new government. I think she'll be delighted to get that role, particularly given that Burnham made a big commitment today. And I find this interesting also, that there's going to be lots more council housing. Council housing's gone out of fashion in the last, 20 years or so. It's housing association housing that seems to be big, but he's talking about old-fashioned kind of council housing, which again leads us to something else you mentioned at the beginning of the programme, Petrie, where, he talked about since the 80s, government's been too centralised, economic power has been privatised, the country's been deindustrialised. There was something pretty old-fashioned about that.
It really
I thought.
was, yeah.
I know he's going to have an AI minister who's going to sit in the cabinet, but there was nothing about any of the challenges, the big modern challenges that come from, technological innovation, from the likes of AI. And it was a real kind of sort of pitch. It could have been a speech that was made at the end of the last century.
It certainly could have been. What do you make of the comments that Louise Haigh made when she was being interviewed by I think it was Beth Rigby for the reporter pool, when she said, "We've been planning this for a year"? Was that a slip of the tongue? I mean, what do you think of it?
Look, it's been pretty well known in the Labour Party that they wanted to get rid of Starmer for a long time, to be fair. We had an attempt at Gordon and Denton recently, a few months ago, to get Andy Burnham back. I'm sure people have been thinking about these things for hours. Certainly, people have been thinking about alternatives in terms of, what you would do in policy, what you would have if you had a fresh start. He's still got a big plan to unveil. He says he's going to unveil that, later in the year, a 10-year plan. But look, I kind of in a funny way, I'm not really particularly surprised by that. Look, the one thing that I get from lots of politicians in the Labour Party is that what they will get under Burnham, and they hope for much more than this, of course, is that he won't make the huge mistakes, right, that Starmer made. It's been such a relief that Starmer's gone. When somebody goes, they get a lot of praise for the things that they have done, but it was not an enjoyable time for Labour Party politicians under Starmer. His first week, we go back to that stuff we've spoken about before, all the stuff about clothes and specs and the winter fuel payment. It's been a disaster from day one for Labour, and that's been reflected in their election results. And they've now got a chance. It might be, as Burnham says, the last chance under a new leader, but he's made plenty big commitments today. How these get paid for, I think, is an issue, and we'll just have to see how it goes. But he's had a wee bit, the only bit of luck he didn't get was England didn't win the World Cup.
I mean, the bond and yield market is not happy with him. They've reflected that borrowing costs have gone up because of him talking about trying to find some flexibility within those fiscal rules to borrow more money. We already know he's going to be taxing more in some way or another. When we're talking about the going back in time, is that not just Labour as usual? Borrow, tax and borrow, tax and borrow. He's got to break that mould as well, hasn't he? It's all very well to say we're going to roll back on the 80s, we're going to turn that around, but he can't afford to go back to a Labour Party of a similar ilk.
I think the bond markets could have been much worse. I think, actually, in that respect, the surprise appointment of John Healey.
They haven't had time to react to Healey yet, though.
Yeah, I think, he's regarded as a sort of safe, sensible kind of guy in the right that everybody likes and everybody can depend on. I think they would have had issues if Ed Miliband had been appointed, to be fair. So I think that appointment's good. But yeah, look, this is the perennial problem that UK politicians now have. If you want to spend more in public spending, you run the danger of spooking the markets, and you also get yourself into a position where inevitably there's going to have to be some tax increases of some sort. And I think that's the place he's in. We've had a problem now for, nigh on 2 decades about productivity and economic growth, and unless in reality we can do something about that, then we've got a problem. But again, there's some stuff in there in terms of the way that Burnham's talking that could cause problems. He's talking about putting life's essentials back under public control, water, transport, other things. These things do not come cheap.
No.
He's talking about using public procurement to back British industry and reindustrialise. That doesn't come cheap either. So if you
or neither does spreading power around the nation. I mean, we already know that number 10 North is going to cost us an absolute fortune.
I'm quite interested in this. I mean, again, if you go back to, his roots and the number of people that he is bringing back in from the 1990s when he was a young aide to Chris Smith, I think it was, in the culture department in the early 90s. He's got his pal James Purnell from that time. That's where Ed Miliband and Yvette Cooper and all these people actually started as aides and special advisors to the Blair and Brown government. These people these are the people who are back, as well as the Manchester people. One of the things that they did, because you'll remember Gordon Brown had no money then either for the first couple of years of a Labour government, and what they had was a huge programme of constitutional change, which gave us the Scottish Parliament, it gave us the Welsh Assembly, it gave us the London Assembly, and I can see kind of echoes of that and some of the stuff that Burnham's talking about, not in terms of the number 10 in the north thing, but just that whole drive to regional mayors, regional economic development. It's kind of, it doesn't cost the same amount of money that some of the other policy changes that you would want to have would cost. But, his other big challenge, as we've said already, is that time is short. He's got 3 years. I think he's got 3 months to prove himself.
Well,
that's entirely. You're entirely right. Yeah.
Yeah, he might have first 3 because they can't afford to chuck out another one, but he's got 3 months to... He's never going to be more popular or more powerful than he was today. It starts to go downhill from tomorrow. What do you make of the fact that there are so many northern MPs now in government? I mean, I was listening to the radio over the weekend and there were lots of interviews from people in... down in Plymouth and even just the south of England, saying, what's all this about? Is there now only going to be London and Manchester? What about the rest of us?
Well, look, I mean, it's certainly the view from anywhere outside London that Keir Starmer's government had, too many people from London. Somebody comes along who's the Prime Minister, they bring with them the people who are closest to them. What's different about Burnham is the fact that he hasn't been in Westminster. He comes to it with a fresh eye and a fresh perspective. But again, if you look at the appointments, apart from those two things, the Manchester people and the people from the 90s, he's kind of stuck, quite rigidly, I suppose, with a lot of people who've been already in Starmer's cabinet or Starmer's government, even though he's given them, other jobs. There's some change. There's a lot of change, but there's some kind of stability and stuff before. Is there a Manchester bias? Yeah, well, there is a Manchester bias. The last lot didn't work. Maybe it's time for something else, and maybe this will have a better chance of working.
Let's hope so. We all hope it works, right? John Boothman, I'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. John Boothman there, political correspondent of the Sunday Times in Scotland. And John is back with us to do the papers on Wednesday. Quick break, back in a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good evening to you. So another new Prime Minister. Does this one give you hope? Because he wants to change the discourse. He wants to change the narrative. And look, after Dua Keir, I think it might be a nice thing to have somebody who's upbeat and positive. The only thing is that if you're trying to please all people, you know, I just don't think it's possible to do that. You know, ending homelessness, do you think right out of the gate he's shot himself in the foot by saying he's going to achieve that? What do you think he means by hope? What hope do you have in a Burnham government? And tomorrow he's going to be announcing immediate relief, so it's immediate breathing space, he's called it, for people who are struggling at the moment. And he's talking potentially about energy bills and bus fares. Will that do it for you? Will that give you that immediate relief? And if you were to advise him, what advice would you give him to help people in your position? I've already mentioned that I think he's got to raise the point at which you start paying tax. I think that's the only thing he can do to prove that he means what he says. But how's he going to pay for that? Or who is going to pay for that more? He'll have to tax at the other end, won't he, in order to give that relief to people? I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not Chancellor, thank goodness, and I'm not Prime Minister yet. Well, it's not my turn yet. But I'd like to know from you what you think he could do to give you that breathing space. What do you need an Andy Burnham government to do for you immediately to give you some breathing space? Is it energy prices? Is it bus fares? What is it? Let me know. 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening to you. This is Talk and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And we saw our new Prime Minister today wearing a blue tie and his wife even wearing what looked like reform blue, which I thought was an interesting choice of colour to wear, because colour means something, right? I was actually going to put on I had lined up a red top today and I thought, no, I better not put that on because course, that could be a political statement, right? So I went for something safe, just because today is today. It doesn't matter tomorrow or after that. But I don't want people to think that I'm making some kind of political statement. So those sort of things really matter. So I wanted to talk to Amy Fisher, who you know, of course, and she's normally here doing the papers, but she's former director of comms for the Conservative Party, really about some of the messages that we're already seeing from the Burnhams, or from Andy Burnham. Good evening to you.
Hello, very nice to see you.
Very nice to see you. Yeah, so I mean, that's just a little thing for me. I was surprised by the colour choices, for example. Was it sensible to wear reform blue?
You're absolutely right. All of these things are sort of, slightly trivial and away from the main kind of policy announcements and all of that kind of thing that were being talked about. They do all matter. So for me, the first thing is, we're just sort of looking at on the screen here. It's just the kind of vibe of it all. I mean, there's literally babies that he's sort of hugging, and his mother was also there. And I actually thought that was rather sweet when he sort of had a very tender and genuine moment with him. And then he sort of did this, very anti-Keir moment. If there was no podium,
yes,
he was speaking. I mean, whenever politicians speak without a podium and without auto cue, it's called, quote, off the cuff. I mean, that was not off the cuff. I mean, he had been up quite late practicing that last night until he was word perfect, right? I mean, and that's not to take away from actually his delivery, which was so markedly different from the sort of robotic Keirism, devoid of emotion, all of that kind of thing. So I think those kind of bits worked well for, sort of Burnham, the King of the North, coming down here, and the sort of, is reminiscent of the people lining the Downing Street 1997 and, cheering Blair in the new era and all the rest of it. So I see how all of the kind of visuals there works. Other signals that have been sent today in terms of sort of wider comms and policy issues, I'm not quite sure are going to land so comfortably and seemingly smoothly for him. So I guess the most obvious thing is that the people that we know that have been appointed to the biggest positions, so Healey in at Chancellor, Mahmood staying as Home Sec, and Miliband going to Foreign State. We don't obviously know about Defence Secretary yet, so let's just sort of bracket that as the other fourth appointment. But those three people, now in those top positions around our new PM, I mean, they were the three most instrumental, really, in getting rid of Keir. Does sort of run a coach and horses through this, Burnham, I'm not about factionism, I want to unite everybody. I mean, well, that's fine, but look at literally what your top team around you is saying and what we know about what they've been up to in the last few weeks and months. So that I think is going to be sending a sort of slight signal, which is going to become uncomfortable, as is the fact that today Burnham didn't mention Keir Starmer at all.
Yes.
Usually there is the kind of, and thank you so much to my predecessor who has done so much, clap, clap, off we go. No one was expecting some kind of effusive tribute, but the absence of literally the, quote, name check at all is quite interesting. But I actually think the biggest issue for me is this sort of big set piece. I want to end homelessness. Now, no one was expecting it.
No.
So
nobody demanded it. Nobody asked for it.
Nobody. Well, okay, I'll come to that. So nobody was expecting it. So I guess in that sense, it shows that there is a sort of tightness of the team around Andy Burnham that we haven't seen for quite a while. I mean, ditto with the appointment of John Healey, right? No one was calling John Healey to be Chancellor. So, okay, that does indicate some discipline within Burnham's camp, which is good. That demonstrates, as I say, discipline, demonstrates some level of experience and professionalism. However, and actually just to continue on, the other sort of positive about the homelessness announcement is, the the criticisms that have been levelled against Keir Starmer were always that there never seemed to be much of a plan. Well, there was the 10-year plan, but no one ever really knew what sort of priorities were. And so what obviously Burnham has tried to do here, literally on day one, within a few hours of having become the anointed PM, is make the clear instruction. That was the word that he used, that he was going to go behind, you know, the number 10 door, and that was going to be his instruction to end homelessness. Great. And obviously there's nobody in the world who wouldn't want to see the end of homelessness. Where it's running into some issues, I think, is, as you were previously having the conversation with John Boothman, is just finding a bed and not having people sleeping rough is the tip of the iceberg. The drug, the alcohol addiction, there's the reasons why people leave home, often related to domestic violence or the breakup of relationships. I mean, this is an enormous societal problem, which is certainly not a one-fix wonder that sounds like a sort of relatively niche-ish problem. So as soon as you start to think about the practicalities, you run into that. And then to your point about, well, no one was asking for it. I don't mean to sound cold-hearted when I say I don't think the majority of those people had kind of ending homelessness as like the top priority for them and their families. I really don't mean that nasty, but I mean, sort of, if you asked, you know, quote the man on the street, or, you know, the woman down the Dog and Duck, or on the Clapham omnibus, or any of these, you know, political hackneyed things you want to use it, you know, they probably are going to put, you know, literally the cost of living in terms of energy bills, or their weekly shop, or, you know, NHS waiting lists because, you know, their mum needs a hip operation, or, you know, we've got terrible productivity, you know, our young people aren't getting jobs, wages are stagnating. So all I'm saying in their sort of in tray of an incoming Prime Minister, the fact that ending homelessness, which, as I say, do not misunderstand me, is a societal ill, but the fact that that was the sort of unveiling of the thing on day one within a few hours, I just think when the dust has settled a bit, people might be a bit confused by it. And they'll read less into it. Oh, here's a man of action. He's made a promise. He's going to keep it. And they might be a bit more, why did he pick that, though, with everything going on?
Yeah, and he's yet to sort of mention immigration, hasn't he, in any way at all? And that appears to be, certainly on the doorsteps, one of the major issues that that the public have at the moment. The lectern thing, though, I found quite interesting. I think David Cameron was the last person to do that, to speak without a lectern. What is he trying to say with that? Is he just trying to say I'm breaking with the norm, or what? There's going to be nothing between you and me? I mean, the psychology of it.
I think you've taken a step too far there. I mean, I think he definitely is trying to signal, look, I'm different. I am more transparent. But I actually think probably some of it just goes down to his personal style and what he's comfortable with.
Right.
Because, you know, he has been Manchester mayor for the last 9 years, which do not involve these big, you know, standing at a lectern. You know, it's not like a party conference. So I think some of it might literally just be what he's comfortable with. And that sort of, actually then just to round up on this point about the homelessness and sort of wrap it into this much more relaxed, you know, or sort of less confrontational in a way than the lectern thing is, you know, he did get slightly pilloried at points during the Makerfield by-election. We're sort of going on about buses were the thing that he sort of fixed. And then he has pivoted, and there has been this pivot towards, you know, homelessness. Actually, you know, as Mayor of Manchester, I made a big focus on homelessness. Now, even leaving aside, as again you discussed in your last segment, even leaving aside whether there was as much downward impact on homelessness as he would like to claim, like, these are relatively parochial issues. And I'm not saying that homelessness is parochial and unimportant, but I am saying it is very different from the priorities of a man who's coming in to run the country, not just the city.
How does he manage the thorny issue? Because this is what's going to be levelled at him. every single day by every other party is the fact that he has been coronated as leader in the most extraordinary way. I mean, he wasn't even part he wasn't even an MP in the last election. How's he going to manage that in terms of communications, that he is a Prime Minister without a mandate of any kind?
The only way, in all seriousness, that I can see that he's going to do this is basically the bit of a bulldozer effect, because there is no rational, there isn't a rational basis for it. So he's now going to have to kind of try and win the argument, particularly when he tries to do anything, dare we say it, around actually keeping to manifesto pledges, then does need to find a lot of money from somewhere or somebody. So he's going to have to do it in this sort of, well, we're going to basically, his personal brand of Burnham charm is going, I say charm rather than chutzpah, because obviously that was the Boris thing. Boris did the bulldoze, really sort of bluff and tough and ha ha ha, and you either sort of loved him or hated him. Burnham's going to have to try a bit more on the charm side of it, combined with some sense of moral purpose, which he's got to be very careful doesn't turn into moral superiority. And that's the only way I can see him melding it together, because there's no point in him trying to make a rational argument, because there isn't one. He's been anointed, no one actually voted for him. He himself was not personally signed up to the Labour manifesto in the way MPs were, but now he is literally, the most important MP tied to it. So the only way, as I say, I think that he does it is just really full on, full Burnham charm, a bit of that sort of moral sense of mission, but without turning into sort of zeal. That's the only way you can do it.
The other thing, of course, is that when there's been changes in Prime Minister without a general election, Andy Burnham has called for a general election, and now he's going to look like just every other MP or just every other Prime Minister as a hypocrite, because there is absolutely no chance that Andy Burnham is going to call a general election. So he's just looks like this continuation of hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's the same way as, again, the words 10-year plan. Left his lips today. So this is what I'm sort of defaulting to, which is he's going to need to have a jolly solid communications plan around him. But then an awful lot of what that communications plan is going to be based on is, as I say, his personal brand and charm. And that kind of thing can carry you a long way. I mean, look, Tony Blair was sort of famous for it. David Cameron had that sort of a very different, but that sort of, Etonian, could actually just pull things out their bag at the last minute. Actually, even with Theresa May, if you didn't like her or certainly agree with her politics or what she was doing around Brexit, I mean, people didn't doubt that she was a principled woman herself. I mean, even sort of Rishi, it was widely accepted that, Spreadsheet Rishi was his name, that people, did know that whether you thought he was doing a good job or not, you certainly knew he was kind of trying. The person by omission that I am just going to leave out is, the one that I have omitted to mention. But these sorts of things, people actually can get quite a long way with a certain amount. And actually, that was part of Keir's problem, wasn't it? Because Keir was meant to be Mr. Rules by his own branding. He was meant to be Mr. Rules, but practically in the first month, the Coach and Horses was run through that. And as John said, the specs and the football tickets and all of this kind of thing. So the kind of the one thing Keir had was smashed to smithereens straight off, and he never got over it. Whereas, Burnham has come in. It is a coronation. He has been questioned about that. He doesn't have any policies. As smoothly, kind of visually and presentationally and music-wise, today went off for him. I don't think his grace period is that long. I mean, look, if you remember Tony Blair, literally 1997, not to kind of really age myself, but I do really remember it. he sort of did make Britain cool again for a bit, obviously helped by kind of Kate Moss Oasis and a Union Jack Mini. But there was a bit of resurgence in the kind of late 90s. He had 6-8 months before we got blown up by the Bernie Ecclestone scandal. Yeah. So
events, dear boy,
events, dear boy. So even Tony Blair and all the kind of a wave that he came in on, he only had like 6 clear months. And that was after the biggest Labour victory in the 1997 general election. Burnham doesn't have that. Burnham's pretty much got Burnham and Burnhamism at the moment.
Yeah, I'd be intrigued. He's got to hit the ground running. I'm just fascinated to see what he does. But the announcement on homelessness, I'm not sure is not going to stand in.
I'm not sure that's going to sort of
no. That's not a quick fix either. It's not
This is what I mean. It's kind of doing neither.
Yeah.
It's sort of niche, so people might be slightly, well, why is that literally top? As important as it is, why is that literally top of the in tray? And by the way, it also costs billions and is a very complex issue involving, health, education, other bits of social services. So
yeah. We won't see a quick return on that promise. Amy, lovely to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Amy Fisher there, former Director of Comms for the Conservative Party. A quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. Just a reminder that Cody Darlow will be joining us at the top of the hour to go through the papers for tomorrow, which I can tell you are all about Andy Burnham. Well, as he settles into his new office in London, Burnham's first calls to foreign leaders included US President Donald Trump and the Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky. The content of the calls has not been made public, but it is understood that the former mayor has invited Trump to Manchester for the G20, I think, next year. Well, Burnham also spoke to the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and said that building a closer and ambitious relationship was key to delivery in both the UK and Europe. We're here to discuss the international effect of being a new Prime Minister. Scott Lucas, Professor of International Politics and founder and editor of EA Worldview, joins me now. Delighted to see you, Scott. Thank you very much indeed. So his brief now, Andy may have been Mayor of Manchester worrying about buses, but it's going to be a different pile of paperwork for him from now on internationally.
Yeah, he's got to step it up nationally, as you've been discussing. But then you've got this this wider arena. That said, and despite the symbolism of the calls today, and think about that symbolism, the whole question of how you deal with Trump and the United States, traditionally Britain's closest ally until recently, then how do you deal with Ukraine, with the Russian invasion, and then how do you deal with Europe with this vexed question of, are we going to go back? Are we going to get closer? Are we going to do something there? That said, I think Burnham's immediate priorities are going to be domestic. That's going to be the focus. You heard that. Again, you've been discussing it, I know, this evening, but whether you talk about housing, whether you talk about that immediate policy about dealing with rough sleepers, whether you talk about transport, whether you talk about the whole question of where he goes on tax policy, all of that is there. That's why I think it's significant that although Burnham's not going to be absent, you mentioned the G20 next year, that appointment of Ed Miliband as Foreign Secretary. That's going to be significant because, of course, the Miliband family have a high profile internationally, with David Miliband having been Britain's third youngest Foreign Secretary. Ed Miliband, like his brother, quite well known in other countries, and I think I wouldn't quite call it a division of labor, but having Ed Miliband out there as Foreign Secretary means you can have Burnham concentrating on the domestic front.
Well, I mean, I just got to bring some breaking news, Scott, if you forgive me. Wes Streeting has been given the job as Defence Secretary. That was what Amy and I were guessing about just a moment ago. So Wes Streeting is now Defence Secretary, one of the big four jobs. So he's been well rewarded. Scott, coming back to Ed Miliband, yes, he's used to being on the international stage with climate change and net zero and things like that. But surely Andy Burnham, as the leader of the significant country of the UK, still, we're relatively significant around the world, he is going to have to leave our shores. He can't allow, Ed can't do it all.
No, I'm not going to say that he's going to be absent, but a lot of the work that we're talking about, Petrie, in terms is the day-to-day work. And there's very important issues here. I mean, let's think, for example, in terms of where the UK is with Europe in terms of supporting Ukraine. This huge question and so on. A lot of that's the day-to-day work in terms of your Foreign Office, military, intelligence services across the board. You have got already European leaders who are quite well known, who've been in there for quite some time to support Ukraine, such as Francis Macron, Germany's Merz, for example, or the European Union's von der Leyen. So it's not necessary for Andy Burnham to get out front on Ukraine. If you talk about the war on Iran issue, in a sense, Europe, it's not completely a bystander, but it doesn't really have that much leverage on that issue. So it's not like Burnham's going to be expected to take the lead to go there. I do agree that he will be needed to handle Trump, to present that face of everything's going to be okay. Donald tonight has just announced 50% tariffs on Canada. You don't want him doing something like that on the UK, right? So I'm not saying Burnham's going to be completely absent. The position is important. But in terms of the lifting on a day-to-day basis, I do get that sense that Burnham's going to be focused on domestic front, and you're going to need more of a collective effort. And let's get back to Wes Streeting here. The thing about John Healey is, and this was important, and you know it when you covered it today, when Healey left as Defense Secretary a few weeks ago, he was very well regarded overseas. He was well regarded in terms of putting the UK on that front foot for European security as well as Ukrainian security. And the way he left raised big question marks because of the defense investment program. It's going to be important, even though Healey, I think, is a reassuring choice as chancellor. It's going to be important for Wes Streeting to come in and provide that type of reassurance that Britain will get its act together on defense rather than what we saw in the past couple of months with that whole question of, well, it's one thing to say you're going to do this with defense, but how are you going to fund it?
Yeah, I mean, those countries, the appointment of Healey as Chancellor must give them hope, right? Because he resigned on the principle that there wasn't enough money going into defence. So, maybe Andy Burnham said, right, well, you go in and find the money. You sort that out. But to foreign countries and to Europe and even to Trump, that must look like a bit of a win having Healey in as Chancellor in terms of defence spending.
Yeah, I think reflecting on your previous discussion, which was absolutely fascinating, the thing is that what Burnham had to show without having that clear mandate that you've talked about, he could not do what I think Starmer's done too often, which has been a reactive politician.
Yeah.
He had to go in on the front foot. And appointing Healey on the front foot, first of all, it catches the government's critics a bit off guard. They didn't really expect Healey to come in. So you've got that plus coming in. And then on the international front, it looks like a good pair of hands that you've got. It looks like, in other words, you've got a good team that's coming about here because in addition to those urgent issues we talk about, we've got the fundamental, which is, are we going to get back to negotiations, meaningful negotiations between the UK and the EU? You heard that phrase from, with the call to von der Leyen tonight, which is an ambition, an ambitious approach.
But it does sound like he's going to follow the same path as Keir Starmer, certainly, to pulling closer towards Europe.
Yeah, but see, the problem with Starmer was he wasn't pulling that much closer in practice that quickly. Starmer would make noises about it, but
Sure.
here we are many months later, and we're still fussing around student mobility. The Erasmus program, and then whether students, what fees they would pay. That should have been sorted out a long, long time ago. We still have not gotten to fundamental arrangements that should have been made regarding border security that needed to be rebuilt after Brexit that had taken place. And Starmer faced the criticism from the EU, whether or not you think it's merited, that he was cherry picking in terms of what the economic links would be. The EU saying, you want to come back in, you come back in on single market. You don't just get to pick out the good parts and leave out the responsibilities. Burnham's going to have to take that on. You can't be half pregnant when it comes to this question of whether or not you're going to get the UK coming back and being part, if not part of the EU, at least with a very good working economic and political relationship.
I get the impression from what we've heard from Trump already saying, oh, he was the mayor of some town, that Trump is not taking Burnham very seriously. Is that a good, maybe that's a good thing, to be off Trump's radar? You're not important enough for him to worry about.
You want me to be blunt?
Yeah.
At least he's not a Muslim. At least he's not a Muslim like Sadiq Khan.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying that flat out. Trump always tries to belittle people. So he's going to do that with Burnham, but he's got no particular grievance at this point.
Yeah.
The way that the Trump camp tried to make no-go London, like this idea of everything that's wrong with Britain. In that sense, Burnham's got a little bit of a clean slate. And I think Burnham's a polished enough politician that he'll know, as he said last week, he said, you go to Trump on his turf, you don't try to humiliate him, you don't try to upstage him, but you go in with your position. You don't bow down as well. I think if Burnham can pull that off, that's fair enough. But like you said, look, Trump going to be Trump. The wider question here is, and I will put this out, there are folks who are much more dangerous than Trump when it comes to the UK, specifically J.D. Vance, the vice president, and others, who said in that national security strategy in December, we want European movements to take over governments. Now, they mean right-wing or hard-right parties. And you know which one those would mean in the UK, right? And we know that Trump folks have been appearing on that British party's channel repeatedly and pushing basically narratives around free speech, narratives around immigration. That's the interesting thing. Do the Trump, not Trump, but the Trump camp, do they continue to try to undermine the UK government by promoting that other party? Or do they play nice for a while Burnham gets settled down?
It's all fascinating, and we'll see more as the days go by. Scott, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to see you. Scott Lucas there, Professor of International Politics and founder and editor of EA Worldview. Right, stay where you are, because coming up we're going to be going through the papers for tomorrow. No surprises as to what's on the front page. Cody Darlow will be with us in just a few moments.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good evening to you. This is Talk, and this is Petrie. And coming up in an hour, don't forget, it is your chance to talk back. And you have yet another new Prime Minister. So tomorrow, he is due to give you some breathing space. That's what he said. He said, I'm in the position now to be able to give people breathing space with the cost of living. And he's mentioned, I think, energy and perhaps bus fares. But what do you want him to do immediately to give you breathing space? What would cut it with you? He's also talked about bringing hope back to the country. Do you feel hopeful with this new Prime Minister? Do you think he's going to be able to deliver for you? And also, is rolling back what happened in the 1980s the right plan? So absolutely changing the Thatcher years. What, if that isn't the right plan, what would be the right plan as far as you are concerned? So that's what I want to talk to you about. That's what I want you to talk to me about at midnight. So let me know, what do you want to hear tomorrow about the breathing space that Andy Burnham is going to give you as your new Prime Minister? 0344 499 1000. Those calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. Well, joining me now to discuss this and the papers, which are pretty much the same thing, I think, is Cody Darla is back in the house. Comedy writer and host of the Truth, in my opinion, podcast. You've also written a book.
I've written a book, yes.
Called?
The State of This.
The State of This,
yes,
the Thicky Dum
Dum-Dum's Guide to British Politics, exactly.
If you ever watch him on any of his social media, which I do, the Thicky Dum-Dum Guide is absolutely brilliant. I love it. So this is the book version.
This is the book version. So I've asked my followers what questions they have about British politics, and I've answered them.
The Thicky Dum-Dum Guide to Politics. I love it. And you're going on a book tour.
I'm also going on a book tour in November, yes.
Where are you going?
I am going the Big Four.
Right.
London.
Yeah.
Bristol.
Yeah.
Manchester.
Wow.
Edinburgh. And Brighton. And Hertford.
No.
If you can believe it. Hertford as well.
That's amazing.
Tacked on the end there.
Oh, you've had to add an extra date, haven't you?
A couple of extra dates. Yeah. Hertford was an extra date, but I'm sure we'll come to regret it.
I know you won't come to regret it. So if you get a chance, go and meet Cody, because he's a really nice chap. Cody, OK, so we got a new Prime Minister,
yes.
right?
Yes.
The seventh in a decade,
yeah.
and I think the fifth in 4 years.
Yeah.
For now, are you feeling hopeful?
No.
Ah.
No, not really.
Why?
Well, I think, I mean, listen, I'm all for giving Burnham a bit of grace. I hope he does well. I hope he fixes all of the problems that have been afflicting us for the last sort of almost 2 decades now. I do worry about the sort of 3-week prep to be Prime Minister. It doesn't feel like a long enough time.
But it is a very strange... I mean, I was taking the mick last week a bit out of the fact that Lindsey Graham had been replaced by his sister
yeah,
as
that was
a senator.
also mad.
That was mad. And then I thought, ooh, look to yourself. Look to your own politics. We've got Andy Burnham, who wasn't even anywhere near the last election, who's now our Prime Minister. So that's a very strange way of getting a PM.
He wasn't an MP 6 weeks ago.
I know.
And now he's the Prime Minister.
Without scrutiny.
Yes, I mean, you know, listen, I think I've been on this show a lot and I think it's clear that I'm not a fan of Starmer, but, you know, Starmer was the leader of the opposition for 4 years. And that is, you know, he's sort of should stand lower in our expectations because he had 4 years to prepare and this is what he did. But the point is, what he did was a choice. Burnham, 3 weeks, I know he's done a lot of good stuff in Manchester. However, my concern is that, you know, we have a massive ecosystem in this country of sort of lobbying interests and corporate interests who basically stand ready with polished, gold-plated policy that they try to just hand to our politicians all the time.
Yeah.
And I think the less prepared they are, because, you know, running the country is very, very complicated. Andy Burnham's got a lot to think about. The concern is that, you know, those corporate interests will just step in with policies like, Andy, why don't you open 2 new oil and gas plants in the North Sea, even though it's not going to lower anybody's bills, and, you know, we just come off the back end of a 5-week heat wave. That's my concern, which is, you know, how much he can't do all of the thinking. You know, running a country so complicated, but it's 3 weeks equals a greater susceptibility to interests that might not act in the public interest.
That's an interesting point. I mean, he's gone really from the lives, looking after the lives of 3 million people to 70 million people. And of course, as the mayor of Manchester, he's used to being loved. And because the job was one of spending money. That's what the job is. And when he reached a point where he wanted to do something, or Manchester wanted something, but he couldn't pay for it, he would blame Westminster. So he was always the good guy, right, in Manchester. And I think he's used to being that. He quite likes that. And Tony Blair last week even said to him, my first bit of news for you is that you will not be loved. And I think that will be a difficulty for somebody who's for 9 years has been liked and loved for a job that is way more simple than running the country, and actually not being able to turn around and go, oh, it's Westminster's fault.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
Oh, it's my fault. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, you know, but my sympathy already runs quite thin with that kind of, because I can see Andy Burnham, you know, he's come in and he said, we're going to stick to the fiscal rules. I mean, the fiscal rules, again, I've come on this show before and we've talked about it at length. The fiscal rules are a self-imposed constraint that Rachel Reeves placed on her. She didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
It was a completely... And over the last 2 years, we've seen sluggish economic growth. We've seen a government completely, you know, tying itself in knots about balancing the books here in order to, you know, we're going back on this policy now, which means we've got to fill a £5 billion hole, be it, you know, cutting, you know, bringing back the, cutting the 2-child benefit cap, whatever. We've had 2 years of just basically money management and number management. And Burnham's come in, I think, at a time where he could say, actually, we're going to scrap this. I know he's got to walk a sort of tightrope between not throwing out the entire 2024 manifesto, but these fiscal rules have not worked. So for him to come in and say, I'm going to stick to the fiscal rules, to me is just like...
But he does have a problem, doesn't he? Because the only mandate that he does have is if he sticks to the manifesto.
Yeah.
And he is hamstrung by that, because if he comes in, well, he is in now, and says, right, I'm scrapping the manifesto, he is literally going, you know, everyone will be calling for a general election because it's like, no.
So, well, I mean, I think we're staring down the barrel of a general election sooner rather than later, because I think what's going to happen is he's come in fine and he said, you know, I'm sticking to the fiscal rules, blah, blah, blah. In 6 months' time, he'll realise that sticking to those rules will mean he won't be able to bring about the change needed without borrowing more money.
No,
so
and
he's going to have to go to a general election.
Or raise taxes in a very unpopular way.
Exactly, which also is in the manifesto, not to do that. So, you know, I fear we're just going to enter, to go back to your very original question, which is, am I hopeful? I'm not hopeful, because I can see all of the things that have been keeping the last government back, or at least largely, are still there.
Yeah.
You know, now, fine, we've got a Prime Minister who is less cautious than Keir Starmer. You know, Keir Starmer was a rod for his own back. Andy Burnham is not that. However, as you just said, Burnham is forced to keep some structural things, i.e. the Labour manifesto, and that, I think we can now agree, is a bad manifesto.
Yeah.
So we're not going to... He won't be able to exist with those constraints for long if, as he keeps saying, he's bringing back hope and this is the last throw of the dice, and that, you know, this is the only chance the Labour government have of staying relevant and actually making positive changes. He's not going to do that with this manifesto.
It is, yeah. I mean, he's so hamstrung by it. I mean, he's literally, it's a weight around his ankle, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he's also been talking about this land value tax, which apparently has come from some university dream team somewhere. But will take years to implement. And also, has somebody explained to him that for renters, that will be an absolute disaster, because if suddenly somebody in London who's renting a property has to pay an extra £10,000 a year in council tax, or the equivalent of, that's going to be handed straight to the tenant. And so I don't know. There's some of the things, the wish list, once you stress test them, don't work. Well. It's like curing homelessness. Great, I would love that to be a thing. It's one of the charities that I've regularly paid into every month for decades, is our homeless charities, right? I would love that, but it's not as simple or as quick or as cheap as people might think it might be. It's not just a case of opening hostels. There's mental health issues, there's drinking issues, there's all sorts of issues, domestic violence, children out on the street. All of these things are much more difficult than saying, I'm going to fix homelessness. It seems like a wish list kind of almost university grade. This is what I would do if I were Prime Minister. Well, now you are Prime Minister, and I don't think you can do those things.
Yeah, well, it's funny, isn't it? Jeremy Corbyn said if he became Prime Minister, the first thing he'd do is say he was going to end homelessness.
Yeah.
So there's some.
But it sounds like a 17-year-old in the first year of, doing sociology.
Well, yes, it does, until you place it within a wider programme of policies, which he hasn't done. I know exactly what you mean. There's this kind
of... It's a very complicated and expensive and difficult and long-term... That's part of a 10-year plan.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, this is what he's saying he's bringing in. But, it's interesting he's zoned in on land tax, because basically what that suggests to me, I don't know a huge amount about the issue, but that suggests to me, that we have regressive taxes in this country, and that actually the tax system doesn't work as effectively as it should do. And we can talk, we've talked about billionaires, and now we can talk about land value. And actually, those changes can be made as part of a wider package of reframing the taxation system, not to zone in on one thing. Because exactly like you just said, if you do zone in on one thing, first of all, the question is, why are you zoning in on that? And secondly is, actually, if you don't reform these other bits, this is sort of just going to get passed on to the consumer, blah, blah, blah. You can't, as you just said, the example you used, if suddenly renters are going to be paying more, then that's going to have a negative impact on the housing market.
And on homelessness.
Exactly. But also the housing market itself is a complete wreck, and this is why he's talking about council homes and things like that. So, I don't want to be that sort of annoying lefty who just comes in and says any Prime Minister, is going to be crap. Because I genuinely hope Burnham is going to be good.
Well, we all hope that he's good, because we can't stand another couple of years or months or weeks of uncertainty and
it's just
the
early signs, I think, suggest that it's not going to be super radical. But I think actually what we might be diagnosing here, just in talking to you, is you're right. He can't come in and be like, I'm tearing this manifesto up. No. So what he's going to have to do now, and I think what we're looking at, is 6 months of managerialism, some kind of nailing some sort big policies,
fudging around
exactly. The realisation from Burnham and his team that actually we can't deliver what we promised with this manifesto, and we have to go back for a general election and get the OK and the thumbs up, in which case he will drop the fiscal rules, he will increase, to 50p tax rate, which again, doesn't actually target the people who should be paying more tax, which is the billionaires. But it's complicated, and he doesn't have either, I think, the electoral support. Well, he certainly doesn't have any mandate, and he certainly doesn't have the money. No. So a general election is the only thing he can do.
The fundamentals haven't changed from Keir Starmer to Andy Burnham, and that's the point, isn't it? The same constraints, the same issues, and the same backbenchers. I mean, the backbenchers have now learned the power of being a backbencher, and they will hold Andy's feet to the fire, and that'll be interesting to see as well, especially if he... There's no way if he does away with the whipping system, which he can't do.
There's now at least 10 very annoyed backbenchers, former members of the cabinet.
Yeah, whose salaries have suddenly gone down by £67,000. Some breaking news I've just got to bring. Ellie Reeves has been appointed Attorney General. That was the last appointment of the night. I think that is the last announcement we're going to make. The newly created role of AI Minister is Kanishka Narayan. Steve Kinnock is the Wales Secretary. Heidi Alexander stays Transport Secretary. Chris Bryant is Northern Ireland Secretary. Hamish Falconer, Europe and Intergovernmental Relations Minister, shared across the Foreign and Cabinet Office. And Sir Alan Campbell will remain the leader of the Commons. So I think that's quite a few of the jobs filled. Is that all of the jobs filled? That's all of the jobs filled. Andy Burnham. Alex Norris, by the way, is Justice Secretary. So there we go. Douglas Alexander remains Scotland Secretary. Just seeing, picking out any other names. That Angela Smith remains Leader of the Lords. And Matthew Pennycook becomes Housing Minister. That's a good sort of Victorian name, isn't it? Pennycook.
A Pennycook, yes.
So there you go, that's the Cabinet. So all the jobs appear to be filled now. But what hope do you feel in your heart? And this big announcement tomorrow about the breathing space. What breathing space does Andy Burnham need to give you in order for you to feel the hope that he hopes to give you? 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you, and with me, I'm thrilled to say, back with us, Cody Darler, comedy writer and host of the Truth in My Opinion podcast. Right, the papers. Yeah, the Times. Let's start with the Times. New Prime Minister starts with a purge. Starmer loyalists out on Burnham's first day. I mean, this is to be expected, isn't it? That he's got rid of all of those people and given good jobs to those people who helped him get to where he is.
Yes, exactly. I mean, in a way, you know, John Healey being his Chancellor, I mean, John Healey was the resignation people might remember. That
he was the
off.
one kicked the knees out from under Keir Starmer. That was the
That was the resignation that basically ended the Starmer project.
And Healey gets the top job.
And he gets the top job.
I'm sure that's coincidental.
Petrie, of course, it's entirely coincidental. Don't you dare suggest that there's any form of communications between any senior politicians in this country. There isn't most of the rest of the time.
No.
But yeah, I mean, as you'd expect, despite the kind of, you know, public-facing, oh, actually, we get along, Burnham and Starmer were never pals.
No.
So equally, you know, Starmer came into Parliament literally after the kind of Burnham's generation. You know, I know they're sort of similar ages, but Burnham, you know, Blairite, Brownite, part-time Corbynite, and now Burnhamite.
Burnhamite.
But there's did you know the Keir Starmer's favourite joke about Burnham?
No,
which
is it polite?
Yeah, it is. It's suitable for the radio.
Okay.
It's a Blairite, a Brownite, and a Corbynite walk into a bar, and the barman says, "What can I get you, Andy?" Quite good.
That is quite good.
Apparently, Keir Starmer.
That's a
loved
Keir
telling
Starmer joke.
Well, that was his favourite joke.
Oh, it's very good.
So that was always Starmer's attack that Burnham just goes whichever way the wind blows.
Yeah.
But yes, Starmerites are out. The ministers who, for the last sort of couple of months, have been rumbling that they're not so happy with Keir Starmer, but not unhappy enough to resign, have been rewarded mostly by being kept in post, right?
Yeah, and we now know that Wes Streeting is Defence Secretary,
Yes.
which is one of the big four jobs, right?
Yes.
And again, I'm sure it's purely coincidental that Wes didn't stand against Burnham.
Yes, entirely coincidental. The Wes Streeting defence sounds like something that you wouldn't want to...
Yeah.
He's using the Wes Streeting defence.
I'm a little bit surprised because I would have seen, if I was Andy Burnham, I might see Wes Streeting as a bit of a threat, given that he was really the only other person that might have got the 81 votes required at the time. So maybe it's a case of keeping him close.
Yeah,
because Wes Streeting is Andy Burnham. He will try again.
Yes, he's slippery, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he wants to be Prime Minister one day in the same way. This is Andy Burnham's third time lucky.
And there's some breaking news, which is Wes Streeting has resigned as Defence Minister and he's launching a bid against Andy Burnham, right?
Yeah.
He can't get the... I find it so embarrassing that Wes Streeting is sort of slithering back into government. Personally, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but to resign from Keir Starmer's government and then basically try and twist this idea that you didn't get 81 seats into this sort of magnanimous effort to welcome Andy Burnham back into government, I think is just sort of... I find it funny, but Streeting as Defence Secretary is... interesting. Does he know anything about defence?
I don't think so.
Do any of them know anything about anything?
I don't know. It is. I mean, Wes Streeting. I would see him as a future sort of threat. I have to say, he was called in quite late.
I know. I thought that.
Yeah, maybe that was a little bit of a
Wes Streeting waiting. Didn't
he? Maybe that was a little bit of a power play by Andy Burnham.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure whether I agree with your assessment that he would see him as a threat. To be honest, because I don't think Wes Streeting has the support of the Labour Party.
Not currently, but wait until Andy's less popular.
Yeah. God, do you think...
Well, I'm just saying...
It'll be Wes leading them into the next general election.
Well, of anybody else, it will be Wes Streeting. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I mean, Andy Burnham he's the midsummer longest day of the year, right?
Yeah.
At the moment. Yeah. As from tomorrow, the days start getting shorter.
Yeah, it's true.
In political terms, that's exactly what's happened. He's at the midsummer, longest night of the year. This is the most popular he will be. This is the most powerful he will be. But every single day, that gets shorter and shorter and shorter.
Why would you want to do this job? Why would you want to do the job?
I absolutely wouldn't. But yeah, it's an interesting situation that we find ourselves in. But of course, don't be fooled by Andy Burnham. I mean, you have to have a massive ego to want to be Prime Minister.
Yes.
And also some sort of steel-like backbone to do what he's done.
Yeah, well, steel-like backbone and also some good old-fashioned Machiavellian backstabbing.
Yeah.
I mean, John Healey... it's not been confirmed, but it's slightly suspicious that John Healey resigns, collapses the Starmer government, and then is rewarded as Chancellor. Equally, it's probably no surprise that Wes Streeting didn't get the 81 seats. I mean, it's quite amazing and shows the sway that Burnham has over the current Labour Party that he wasn't an MP.
I know.
And has the machinery of the Labour Party
moved to make him one.
To make him an MP. Literally stalled. At the Wes Streeting resigned and had intended on calling a leadership election, but the party machine stopped him to allow Burnham to be coronated. I mean, that's not a kind of out of the goodness of its heart.
No.
That is by design. And Burnham, got 300 and odd, but most of the parliamentary Labour Party nominated him to be leader. So no competition, no battle of ideas, no nothing. Whether that shows Burnham's sway over it or whether it shows the desperation of the Labour Party. I mean, we had this discussion when, the Tories, when they would just parachute a new Prime Minister in whenever they got bored. But like John Crace, I remember the Guardian sketch writer, used to call the Conservatives, used to say they had a talent puddle rather than a talent pool. And it's very similar with Labour.
Very similar.
Where it's like, if you do not have a single solid candidate to take over the Prime Minister within your your landslide elected group of members of Parliament, aside from Blair in '97, they have never had a bigger parliamentary Labour Party. Yet still, they need
they had to go outside.
That.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, Petrie, but it's whether it just shows how completely volatile our politics is, or I don't know. But I mean, honestly, all eyes on whoever the Labour mayors of wherever are across the country, because they're the future prime ministers. It seems.
Well, I was just saying it'll be my turn soon. I mean, surely it's got to come round. The Times is also talking about a new Prime Minister is expected to announce a fully funded package of cuts to energy bills as he seeks to ease the cost of living crisis. So who has he fully costed that with? Because he's only just got a Chancellor 10 minutes ago. So who...
yes, but they've been in cahoots, haven't they?
But, yeah, of course. Homeowners are braced for another significant jump in the cost of energy this autumn. Burnham said, as well as unveiling his measures, blah, 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 Prime Minister's team has considered several options for cutting energy bills, including scrapping 5% VAT on energy bills, a move that would save households. See, this is the point I'm making. £86 a year. How does that provide breathing space? That's what he's talking about. It's an overpromise and an underdeliver. You say, I'm going to give you breathing space, I'm going to cut your energy bills by £86 a year. That's what, £7 a month?
Well, I mean, unless it just shows what figures people are dealing with. People are literally on the breadline. But, without risking getting bogged down into details, because it is a complicated topic, but partly why we have such high energy bills is because we are so reliant on buying our oil and gas from the international markets, which are obviously completely volatile because of Donald Trump, invading whatever country he chooses. That's why our bills go up when there is a geopolitical crisis. Andy Burnham, the rumours are that he's going to open new oil and gas fields. That oil and gas is not going to be used domestically. It's going to be sold on the international market, where we will then have to buy it back at top dollar, because we don't control the oil and gas in the North Sea. That is controlled by private companies.
So this is the mistake that Donald Trump is making about America, isn't he? When he says that we have the biggest oil fields in America. But no, you don't.
Yes.
Shell does.
Yes.
All the petrol companies and the fuel they own it.
But what's this effort, if he does get rid of 5% VAT, what this government needs to do, what any government coming in needs to do, is absolutely invest in renewables so that we are 100% reliant on renewables, because that is the cheapest form of energy.
We're not quite ready battery-wise.
So funny you should say that, Petrie, because there was a state-of-the-art project that was supported by none other than the former mayor of Manchester, aka Andy Burnham, which was talking about exactly this, which is there's this new technology to store renewable energy, but the storage is absolutely a serious problem.
It's a huge problem.
But if we were reliant on our day-to-day 100% renewable energy, we would not be paying top dollar. So for Burnham to come in and say, we're going to continue to pump oil and gas into our system. It's a thing called marginal pricing. Again, this is when it gets technical. That is literally just going to perpetuate our reliance on fossil fuels. Yep. For him to cut VAT means the government then has less money to invest in renewables. So what actually is being protected here when he cuts our bills by £86? The profits of the oil and gas companies, who have done nothing to increase output. They've done nothing new. They've simply sat back and allowed Donald Trump's foreign policy to double the cost of oil and gas. So
and to increase their profits by disgusting amounts.
By disgusting amounts. Also personally, the CEOs of these companies are taking home personally tens of millions of pounds. So absolutely, your first day as Prime Minister, you need to cut people's bills. But again, all of the things that he's choosing to do don't go nowhere near far enough to tackle the actual systemic problem we have, which is an over-reliance on fossil fuels, and that we're also just completely reliant on private companies who pump the natural resources that should belong to Britain onto the international markets.
Yeah.
And if you want to see an alternative, look at Norway, who literally have nationalised the same oil fields that we discovered in the 70s with them, and they've now used all of the profits to become entirely reliant on renewable energy. They're not paying much for their bills.
Yeah, and it's also short-termism, isn't it? It is, and that is, I think that's also the appetite that we have in this country. We demand, we want everything tomorrow. We want everything today. We want everything tomorrow. And if we don't get it, and I think that's why a lot of our prime ministers recently have promised this quick, rapid change, which doesn't come, and then we get disappointed by it, and they're not looking at this long-term view. Or they keep saying, oh, 10-year plan, but we don't have to give them 10 years, we have to give them 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, you know, without over-intellectualising it, I think that's a product of austerity as well. You know, when the 2008 crisis happened, we were told that we've got to you know, tighten our purse strings. And I think for many years, people had the patience to, we all understood that it's a global crisis, and OK, we've got to knuckle down. The only problem is that we've been asked to do that every single year since. And so it's gotten to the point where we're almost, the pressure now is politicians cannot turn around and say, I mean, that's what destroyed Starmer on his first day when he said, things are actually going to get worse. We don't want to hear that, because we've heard it for 20 years now.
We've lived it for 20 years.
But that does mean that there is a real impatience for change, and that's the danger of any incoming Prime Minister, because we are hungry for change, because we know things have been so bad
for so long.
And we are desperate for something to change in our lives that's in a positive direction.
I wonder if Andy Burnham can deliver it, or anything like it. Quick break, Cody. Cody and I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, very good evening. It's Petrie here with you, and with me is Cody Darler, comedy writer, but author now, host of the Truth in My Opinion podcast. The Telegraph, right, let's have a look and see what's going on here. Burnham pins hope on Healey, a picture of our new Prime Minister there. I don't understand the next headline, but anyway. The suspect has been charged now with the murder of Anne Widdecombe. 28-year-old man has been charged with that murder. Police say that Joshua Kerry has been charged with a single count of murder after the former Tory minister was found dead in her home in Dartmoor. I mean, we were expecting that to come. He was been arrested twice, and now we have a charge. There's not much we can say about it because of that charge. But they're not looking for anybody else in regards to this now. Another little story here says the US lacks munitions for all-out war on Iran.
It's almost like it wasn't thought through.
It's almost like he thought it would be over in 24 hours.
Most.
Yeah.
I wonder how big he thought Iran was.
Yeah. I don't think he thought it was as huge as it is.
No.
But he's Trump is considering his options for a wider war. However, an official familiar with the administration has said the operation will be limited by dwindling stockpiles of munitions. I mean, this will be music to Iran's ear.
Yeah.
And also China and Russia.
Yeah.
Because they know that there's no defence now.
Yes, I mean, you know, equally, like, there's never been a successful military incursion into the Middle East.
No.
It's just...
Just don't do it.
Exactly. But it also, I mean, don't do it anyway, but for someone so utterly ignorant of any kind of history or sort of just any kind of culture whatsoever, as Trump is.
Well, and also, he was warned.
Disaster.
He was warned about the Strait of Hormuz. He was warned about engaging with Iran. He was warned about all of it, but he decided unilaterally that he wanted to do and Israel wanted to do this, and so he ignored all of any advice that he was given, which is. And still probably won't admit that it was the wrong thing to do.
Oh, never. But, you know, meanwhile, our new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, is having to cut VAT on energy bills because of Donald's actions. But we've given
And people are paying more on their mortgages because of Donald's actions.
Of course, yeah.
But
it's all right. Donald's been invited to Manchester next
year. Yeah. I wonder if he'll bother to go. I can't imagine he'll go.
The carnival continues.
Yeah. Daily Mail, they've got an image of what looks like Andy Burnham praying. That's a good shot. But I think he was just saying thank you to somebody in the crowd. But it hasn't learnt that these photographs can haunt you. Let's pray he knows what he's doing is the headline there. The Sun has gone not with... they've got a tiny little bit on the Prime Minister, tiny. The rest of it on Kevin Keegan. And I was saying to Gabriella before I said, I'm sure Cody's too young to know who Kevin Keegan is.
Well, I know who Kevin Keegan is, but I'm not footballing.
You're not
pundit.
A footballing
I'm not a
person.
footballer. I'm not a football fan, but I understand.
Did you watch any of the World Cup?
I did watch some of the World Cup. I watched the England games.
Yeah.
I actually watched the England game in Copenhagen.
Oh.
The semi-final. I located a Scottish pub just so the locals didn't think I was too English. And then, cheered them on. And then in a room full of Argentina fans.
Great.
Although, actually, that's a bit of a lie. Lots of people in Copenhagen were supporting the English. But, yeah, that's... I watched the final. Did you watch the final?
I didn't watch the final because it was too late. I was exhausted. I had a weekend where I had to be social and sociable.
Oh, dear.
And that does not go down well with me.
Well, let me tell you, it did nothing for, the British-Argentine relations, because Argentina were despicable. They were absolutely despicable.
Well, they've been despicable all the way through, haven't they? Even in the final, they were apparently really badly behaved. I mean, I wish I'd seen more of the France-England game, because 10 goals is quite... There's no boredom there, is there?
Yeah, there was a brilliant...
I saw the first half of it, but I fell asleep.
Yeah,
So I
I think the Guardian coverage was just like, England switch on when it matters the least. Such a confusing game.
It was such a silly game, such a silly game. Anyway, this is a story about Kevin Keegan, who has died. I believe he had stomach cancer. He's dead at the age of 75. And, of course, he's just one of those names, isn't he? He just and the hairstyle, I think, was, everybody talked about that. Yeah, much loved husband, father and grandfather, dies at the age of 75. The Burnham era begins. This is the I paper with a radical pledge to transform the UK. New help on the cost of living expected, bus fare limits and rent freezes. Burnham looking at tax cut for lower earners and pensioners. Raising the 12,570 tax-free allowance. That's all he has to do, actually, is that. if he wants to help working people. A return of 50p income tax for higher earners is one option to pay for it. And as you were saying, Cody, that's not what anybody means by the high earners, right? That nobody's, you know, when we say tax the rich, we're not talking about people who are taxed 50p on every pound. We're talking about people who have got more than 10 million in wealth and millions in the bank. Why can't these Labour politicians get that? Is it because it's too difficult and it's easier to tax people who are on over 100 grand than it is to go after people who are on 10 million?
Well, the levers
I don't
are there,
understand
aren't they?
it.
I mean, you know, you just have to increase it.
Yeah.
But absolutely,
That's not what anybody means by the rich anymore.
No, well, no, exactly. I mean, I don't. It's not just Labour. I mean, it's all political parties, apart from the Greens, who for some reason oppose or come up with all sorts of creative reasons as to why we can't tax
the very rich.
The very rich at 2%.
Yeah.
And you know, there's I think a lot of discourse at the moment. Gabriel Zuckman, who's written a book about, you know, why we need to bring in the 2% wealth tax, all backed up. But you know, there's Rory Stewart with head in hands. You know, I just. Yes, it's frustrating, and I think this does nothing to kind of dial down the anger that I think a lot of young people feel.
Yeah, there's no aspiration in a 50p rate of
exactly.
tax unless you set that at 250 or something. Yeah. There's no. How is that aspirational?
Yeah, it's not. And again, I think it's just shifting the burden onto people who listen. If you're on the top rate of tax, you're fairly well off, fine. But again, when the ultra rich are getting away with not paying their fair share,
absolutely,
it just
it just doesn't make sense to me, and I've never understood this idea from Jeremy Corbyn. He was saying anybody on over more than £70,000 a year is rich, and we're going to. It's like. That's not who, when we talk about taxing the rich, there are so many who are so rich and have so many loopholes through which they can crawl, and that they end up paying nothing. And they're not on PAYE. But I think that PAYE, of course, is the easiest and quickest way to gather that money.
Yes,
but then don't do the easiest and quickest. Go after people who are earning 10 million a year.
Yeah.
Those are the rich.
You're preaching to the choir here, Petrie. I know. I mean, I think we should absolutely do that. But whenever any politician, sort of in the Green Party, mentions it, everyone looks at them like they've lost their mind.
Yeah, I know. Right, let's have a look at The Guardian. The Guardian, Burnham arrives as PM with a promise to bring back hope. The Financial Times, like I said, they haven't been able to the markets haven't been able to respond to Healey being made Chancellor because the markets had closed by the time that he was made Chancellor. But everybody was blindsided by that appointment. I thought it was really interesting.
It was interesting, yeah. There's also been a lot of... the markets have been doing a lot of talking over the last few days.
Yeah, they have.
And they're expected to do a lot more chattering over the coming days. I mean, I don't know, you could tell me about this, Petrie. Has this always been... I don't quite remember as big an emphasis on the markets previously.
Do you know, it's always been the most accurate bellwether. It's always been... if there's something happening in the world, you look at the markets just because they hate to lose. Yeah. So... they've always been, I think, the most accurate way of judging whether an idea is a good one or a bad one.
But it does constrain slightly, doesn't it? I mean, it quite visibly constrains the ambition of a government when it's like all the concern is to keep the markets calm.
Yeah, but I mean, then you look at what Liz Truss did, and and the markets were right to respond in the way that they did with that. So it has been I would always, if there was some big political change coming or something happening in the world, I would go and have a look at the markets to see what they're saying, because I trust them above politics in terms of them being having a sort of measurable, like I say, bellwether to the future. But there is a lot of emphasis on it now, especially the bond and yield market. And they do control... the money runs the world.
Well, this is it. And I think that's I mean, the reason I asked you that is because I wonder whether we're, again, entering a sort of period where maybe I just live in an echo chamber. I
think we are.
I just become a bit tired of hearing about the markets.
I agree. I absolutely agree with you. And I think that they are, it's the tail wagging the dog.
Exactly, yeah. I mean,
it is the tail wagging the dog.
How can you, yes, if they don't like anything that they don't know, I mean, how can you do anything new?
Absolutely, you can't. You can't. Quick break, and Cody and I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good evening to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you, and with me the fabulously wonderful Cody Darla, comedy writer, author of a brand new book called
The State of This, a thicky dum-dum's guide to British politics.
There we go. And host of the Truth, in My Opinion podcast.
What a plug.
So The Independent, Burnham vows to be circuit breaker PM as he purges the cabinet. So there's him and Mrs Burnham at number 10. It's the Daily Mirror, King Kev, talking about Kevin Keegan again, and Burnham moves in. Is he? Does he, though? I thought he wasn't going to move in. Anyway, it starts now, is the Mirror.
Is he commuting from Manchester?
I don't know. He's going to have up north. But he said he didn't want to move into number 10.
Really?
Yeah, he said that a week or so ago.
Well, OK.
There's a flat going begging there.
Yeah, that's the sort
Good
of housing
security.
crisis now.
Good security
Yeah.
there. You wouldn't have to lock your door. You'd be fine.
No, you wouldn't, yeah. Your own policeman.
Yeah, you got your own policeman. Seventh Heaven is the Metro. 7th PM in 10 years admits Westminster has failed, and Britain failed Britain and promises he'll bring back stability and fairness. We've heard it all before. And the Daily Express, let's hear how you'll bring back hope then, Andy. And he's said he's not going to tell us until September, which is kind of because he's going on holiday. They're going on holiday, aren't they?
You think he's going to go on holiday now?
Yeah. He's got his cabinet done. He did that in one day.
It's true, yeah. He's put the deposits down last year.
He's done that.
Where do you think he's going?
He's sorted that. He doesn't want to have to cancel. I don't think becoming Prime Minister is on the insurance. Does that...
No.
Do you know all the things, like if you break your leg or, something happens.
Became Prime Minister.
Yeah, I don't think that's in the small print.
It should be, though. It feels unlikely enough for the insurance companies
that they would put it in there.
In there, yeah.
If you become Prime Minister, we will give you your money back.
You can get you get half of it back.
Yeah. So the big plans that he's going to deliver, his 10-year plan, he's going to deliver, I think, in September.
Well,
so we won't hear
5
anything.
weeks away. It's only 5 weeks
So
away.
what's going to happen in 5 weeks?
What's going to happen in 5 weeks? I don't know.
We can't go on holiday, surely.
I mean, it wouldn't be a great look. He's just come in. But then again, what's he going to be? What's he doing? He might be refurbing the flat. He might not live in the flat.
He might not live in the flat.
He might be trying to find out where he's going to live in London now.
I wonder if that garish wallpaper that Boris Johnson paid like £40,000 for is still there.
Or Theresa May's John Lewis interiors. Yeah, I wonder where Burnham shops. He'll shop at like George or something. He's such a man of the people.
Yeah, he's a man of the people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think he's going to live there. But also, the costing of a number 10 North is going to cost hundreds of millions of pounds to the country, because it needs to have the same security around it as the number 10 we've already got. So that again seems to be a very I'd want 2 number 10s. Very childish almost.
Well, we could abolish the royals and take their security.
Could I suppose.
That's one idea for Burnham, if he's listening.
Yeah.
Abolish the royals, Burnham. Go on holiday and abolish the king.
Yeah.
You'll be very popular.
See how that goes. It's like Sadiq Khan, isn't it, who said that he wanted to get rid of the Lords, and now he's been made a peer. He's suddenly, I quite like the Lords now.
Well, they all did that, didn't they? John Prescott did that as well.
I think, yes, that's right, he did.
Bringing it from the inside, bringing it down from the inside.
A load of absolute nonsense, isn't it? They're all hypocrites. They are all hypocrites. A couple of stories away from Andy Burnham now. Sigh of relief.
Thank goodness, yes.
Thank goodness.
If you haven't got the measure of Burnham in the last 53 minutes, then I'm afraid it's a hopeless task.
A hopeless task. But a sculptor, a New York sculptor, I quite envy the New Yorkers at the moment with Mandami, don't you?
Yes, I know. He would be great.
He's lovely.
He'd be great.
Yeah, he's just great.
He's very good. He's cool. He's very cool.
He's very cool.
He's very cool.
Yeah. Anyway, wishful thinking, because we can't have him, but New York sculptor spent $100,000 to make a statue that no one wants to buy. Tell me about it.
Yes, this is a statue of our favourite far-right racist, Charlie Kirk, who we'll remember was killed.
He was.
Was it last year? Last September?
God, it's got to be longer than that.
Anyway, a fairly hateful figure, Charlie Kirk. This Italian man in New York has decided that what the world needs is Charlie Kirk 2.0, but in, like, brass. So he spent $100,000 making the former hateful MAGA head
and it's
likeness.
not a very good sculpt.
No, but this sculptor's very angry that no one wants to buy it, because he had it on good authority that people were very interested in a sculpture of Charlie Kirk, and now he's starting to believe that the sculpture might be haunted because the other day he tripped over it and broke his foot. So, it could be cursed.
He had hoped that the statue of the deceased far-right activist, which he intends to display in Times Square, would raise millions of dollars.
He had it on good authority that it would raise millions. He's still going to put it up in Times Square, though.
Yeah, he is, but he said he's been inundated by messages from people saying they intend to urinate on the sculpture, and like you said, to add injury to insult, Funari recently broke his foot working on the statue, tripping over it. Is it cursed? Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. That's a good... I mean, that is the only response really to a question like that, isn't it? Is it cursed? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, there you go. That's odd thing to spend £100,000 or dollars on.
Yeah.
Of your own money, anyway. You'd think if you'd wait to see if it was commissioned by somebody.
He's also clearly not a very good sculptor.
No, this looks like one of those waxworks that's in the not the proper waxwork museums, isn't it?
It doesn't sort of smell of a financial investment made by someone of sound mind.
No, why would you think that would be I don't get it. Well, in desperation now, this sculptor has set up an online fundraising campaign, hoping to raise an initial 150,000, but potentially millions of dollars, which he said would allow him to take the statue on tour. As of Thursday, he had raised $1,400.
He also said that he's not actually a big fan of Charlie Kirk.
No, he didn't agree with him.
He didn't agree with him.
He said, I was thinking it was going to resonate with the world, with whoever, but man, people are strange out there, meaning like nobody's really coming up with support, especially financial support. So far, I've spent all my money on this. Well, nobody asked him to,
No
right?
one
I mean,
asked
that's the
him to.
point.
Yeah.
He wasn't commissioned to make this statue, and he's managed to. He's spent $100,000 and he's managed to raise $1,400. So it's not looking.
It's not looking good for him. No,
for him.
It's not looking good.
No.
Although, word just in, he's just been appointed Chancellor by Andy Burnham.
Great,
yes,
excellent.
So everyone rest easy.
Phew.
Go to bed now. The
Phew.
finances are in safe hands.
They're in safe hands with somebody with brilliant ideas who's gonna sort it all out. Maybe the government will just do a GoFundMe.
Yeah, maybe. Is that not what taxes basically are? They're just a big crowdfunder.
It is.
We've got to do
GoFundMe.
all this stuff. Can you help us out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll set up a more honest one, saying, look, if you want an NHS, then donate a couple of quid here.
It's worth a try.
It's worth a try. And this story, and I didn't realise that the quadruplets were quite so rare, but an Australian woman has given birth to rare, naturally conceived identical quadruplets after a pregnancy described as extremely high risk, by the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital. The 4 girls who were delivered via caesarean at 28 weeks and 4 days were, I've got to a word, monozygotic.
Yes.
Monozygotic quadruplets, where a single fertilised egg split into 4 embryos.
Yes, apparently it's 1 in 15 million pregnancies.
Wowza.
Yeah. Which suggests to me that actually that's quite common.
Yeah,
But I don't think it is common. Or maybe it was 15 billion.
But anyway,
Very, very rare.
Very, very rare. And I would have thought quite a shock.
Yeah, well, the woman who gave birth to them had to go into hospital at 25 weeks.
Right.
So in order for her safety. But everyone is fine, apparently.
Yeah,
it's a
we've
happy
got
story.
4 beautiful, healthy babies born at 28 weeks and 4 days. 4 babies.
Yeah, well, they've already got 4
go.
kids. Can you
No
believe it?
way.
They've already got 4 children, so now they've got 8.
And they were thinking, we'll just have one more.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Just have one more, round that up.
Just one more.
Yeah, just one more.
Yeah.
Cody Darlop, thank you very much indeed. Comedy writer, author and host of the Truth in My Opinion podcast. Don't leave it so long till you come back, will you?
I won't. I'll be back next week, I believe.
Good, excellent. Glad to hear it. Cody Darlop will be back with us next week. Stay where you are. It's over to you next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning to you. It is now day 2 just of having a new Prime Minister, and the Cabinet, it appears, has been filled. He's got all his people, all his ducks in a row, and today, later on today, Andy Burnham is going to give you some much needed breathing room. He said it's within his gift now to deliver that as Prime Minister, and he is going to give you some breathing room. The breathing room that he's talking about, though, I don't want to sound... I don't want to sound mean-spirited about it. I genuinely don't. But he's talking about an 86 quid reduction potentially on your fuel bill. I mean... And actually, you can achieve that by delaying putting your heating on for 2 weeks, right? I don't know. I don't want to sound mealy-mouthed about it because everything helps, right? But £86 a year, and also capping the price of bus fares, and that's going to give you immediate breathing space. Well, I don't think that is going to cut it, and I think that people. Maybe it's just me, but I was expecting bigger things from Andy Burnham. I was expecting more bold policies. I was expecting bigger steps to be taken. And if he starts off tomorrow, I mean, we don't know what he's going to say. Maybe he will take a big, bold step, and that would be great. But if he starts off tomorrow going, right, I've provided you with some breathing room, here's 86 quid off your heating bills. I'm not sure that's going to ignite that hope in our bellies that he wants to ignite. I don't think that's going to achieve anything. You know, and like I said, I don't want to be mealy-mouthed about it. I mean, for some people, maybe £86 a year will be incredibly helpful. But like I said, you can do that yourself by delaying putting your heating on. Or reducing the temperature of your heating by a couple of degrees. I don't know. Maybe I am being too mean about it. But is that going to cut it for you? Is that going to provide you with that breathing space and breathing room? So that's what I want to ask you really is, what are you hoping that he's going to come up with today when he talks about providing you with that breathing room? You know, capping bus fares, I guess, will help millions of people, but is that going to be enough? Is that going to... There are bolder things he can do, right? I mean, I know we're broke, but there are things he can do, like reducing the cost of the petrol pump, reducing VAT on fuel. That would make a massive difference to millions of people, and not just those who own cars, but those, you know, anybody who buys anything in a shop. So things like that. I just feel that if that's what he comes up with tomorrow, that is incredibly disappointing. That's what I feel. I mean, maybe you think I'm wrong, and I mean, entirely probable that I am, but please just get in touch, let me know. What do you want to hear from him today, that the breathing room he's going to provide for you? What breathing room do you need right now to help with the cost of living? 0344 499 1000. Those calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back, of course. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. And what do you think of what he said so far? I mean, there's no real policies, right? He said he's not going to really tell us much until September, which I think is too long for us to wait. However, he made his speech this morning. He was at a homeless centre, so he wants to end homelessness. Which is brilliant. I mean, like I said, one of the only charities I pay into monthly and have done for decades is a homeless charity. I just, you know, I would love homelessness to be ended. It's not as simple as that. And it's not a... It is a mark he can be measured by, and it's a stick he can be beaten with as well. Because it's like, say, when the next question is when? And then how? And then how are you going to pay for it? This is all measurable. And he failed to do that in Manchester because it's a very complex issue. It's not as simple as just giving somebody a room. So, what do you need for your breathing space right now? What do you need to hear from your new Prime Minister who is going to do things differently? And I'd really hope for something a bit more radical than 86 quid off our fuel bills. 0344 for a year. 0344 499 1000. Nigel is in London. Good morning, Nigel. How are you this morning?
Well, good morning. It's a long time since I've spoken to you. Thank you for taking my call.
Oh, it has been a long time. Listen, what do you think of Andy Burnham so far? We don't know a lot, but he's made some bold statements.
Well, I think he's hit the buffers before he's even got his overcoat on. I think that clearly his policies and his proposals are ridiculous. He wants to end homelessness, but of course, if I'm not mistaken, Prince William was involved in a charity to end homelessness in 2023. Well, it hasn't ended it, has it? So he's not going to end it. So that's a complete and utter...
I mean, it seems like a really daft... I mean, look, it is aspirational, and we would all like to see that, right? But it is such a complex issue, and it's also measurable. So people are going to be saying, well, OK, then, how come you haven't ended it, right? It seems like a really dumb thing to say.
Of course, how are you going to end it? Where are you going to put people, and who's going to fund it?
Yeah.
Those questions he can't answer. The other things for me which are daft, he wants to have a number 10 in the north. Look, I'm a news photographer. You tell me what it's going to cost to move a number 10 to the north, fund it, protect it, and operate it 24 hours a day. Are you going to have the cabinet going 200 miles every day? Each Tuesday to a cabinet meeting in Manchester. It's ridiculous. And I can tell you something there. Just imagine what that's going to cost. Well, people don't want to hear about that because they're going to have more money in their pockets. I mean, he could reduce or remove the VAT on domestic fuel allowances at home. He could reverse the ridiculous national insurance contributions increased by Rachel Reeves. He's now made Mr. Net Zero the Foreign Secretary, of course, the man who has a litany and a catalogue of hate against Donald Trump. And, of course, the man who's going to be a complete hypocrite who wants to fly around the world and he wants to fly anywhere.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that because that was on the tip of my tongue to say that as well. Exactly that. They are such hypocrites, though. I can't bear it. It makes my blood boil.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's a bit like a pantomime, but a few months before the pantomime season started.
Oh, no, it isn't. Yeah, no, I agree with you, it is. But it is also, I mean, I heard a quote, and I forgot to actually look it up earlier on today, that the number 10 North is going to cost us £1 billion. Because of the security aspect of it, and because of all of those. I mean, that is a ton of money, right? That could take fuel duty VAT off fuel, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think £1 billion is a starting figure. I think if you get people, if you get an expert on like Peter Blexley, who's your wonderful policing correspondent, the former Scotland Yard detective, he would tell you there is an absolute national shortage of close protection officers. And close protection officers are people who protect the Home Secretary, the Defence Secretary, the King, the Queen, the Prime
I was talking about this last week when the suggestion was that from reform that all MPs had protection. It's like, who?
Exactly. So of course, there are different levels of protection, and not all people don't realise this, but not all cabinet members get close protection officers. They get a government service car, apart from the Defence Secretary, the Foreign Secretary, the Home Secretary, and of course the Prime Minister and the Chancellor. But I think it's important to stress you can't work it. It's just there aren't enough to go around. And the thing about it is if it's going to cost £1 billion, well, that £1 billion is far better off spending elsewhere. It's just nonsense. And I think that he has to realise that people are hurting in their pockets. Lower fuel duty, not put it on a free, just lower it, as you said a few moments ago in your introduction.
Yeah.
The cost of fuel affects everybody, whether you're a millionaire or a person who earns a few quid a week, because everything is moved by road. So the cost of a loaf of bread, the cost of a pint of milk, the cost of tradespeople doing jobs in your home and around the country goes up because they have to fuel their vehicles.
Yeah.
And
absolutely,
he realises this.
But if he comes to us today, later on today, and says, right, I'm going to give you this breathing space, it's 86 quid a year off your heating. How would you respond to that? Because I'd be incredibly disappointed that that's his big move.
I'd say, maybe I want £86 off my cooling next year if it's going to be so hot. But yeah. I think how's he going to work this out if the price caps are going up? The price cap went up about 2 weeks ago, didn't it? Yeah. For energy costs. I think simply this is the government, of course, or should I say the previous government, who removed the winter fuel allowance and then did a U-turn and put it back in place. I think that Andy Burnham has to realise £86, whilst it's welcome, how does he justify it, and where did he get those actual figures from?
Well, and also, and can he do it, Nigel? Because the latest news in the Middle East is that the Houthis are ready to block the entrance to the Red Sea. Now, if they do that, that's another massive blow to the world economy in terms of moving fuel around. He won't be able to. The prices will just go up. You're looking at $200 a barrel of oil if that happens.
Absolutely.
$200.
Yeah, and I think what's more important, without wishing to sound any way flippant, is for families to have their grocery bill reduced every single week. Because it's groceries that are going up, and they're going up for different reasons. Of course, distribution costs, which you and I have just discussed about fuel, other costs because of increased labour charges, because of employers having to pay more. Yeah. So it's a pound in someone's pocket, not £86 a year for fuel allowance, which is.
Which, like I said, you could actually manage yourself by lowering your heating by a degree or two over a period. It's not. I mean, look, every little helps, as one grocery supplier would often say, but that is almost too little to help.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that he has to realise that it's not just simple as saying, well, I'm going to give you 86 quid a year off your heating bill. Everything's going to be great until September, or with our new budget. And of course, the last budget was a punch in the face for everybody.
Everybody.
And if you're going to start increasing costs for everybody, it's going to be worse. But what Andy Burnham doesn't realise is, and I think this is a really stark warning, is that governments don't create jobs. It's businesses that create jobs. Yeah. If businesses can't afford to invest in this country, then you're not going to get a job creation. And let's not forget, there's a lot of young people out there who don't realise, and Andy Burnham clearly doesn't realise, that there's hundreds of thousands of jobs not going to be there anymore because of AI.
I know.
Does he not realise this?
It seems, well, he's appointed an AI minister, the first AI minister, so maybe he does realise that, but it all feels a little too late, to be only now thinking about AI, because that is taking jobs from everybody. I mean, it's just, it is extraordinary that the speed now of AI as well across society is also, I don't think anybody realised just the exponential speed that it would be grabbing jobs, taking jobs and putting people out of work.
It's phenomenal. I said to a young guy who goes to my gym recently, he's 18. We just got talking because I know his father. And he said, I'm going to go to university. He said, I wish you every success. I said that my advice to you is get a trade, because AI can't be a plumber, AI can't be a bricklayer, it can't be a plasterer, it can't be a carpenter, can't be an electrician. And you know as well as I do, being a homeowner, you try and find a decent tradesperson. They're few and far between.
Can't be
ones
done.
that are great.
Yeah.
They command a price.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think those are going to be the golden jobs, aren't they? They are going to be the golden jobs of the future. Those are going to be the jobs that everybody wants to have, because they're the only ones that are sustainable, given the rise of AI. It's extraordinary. Nigel, it's good to talk to you again. Don't leave it so long next time, please.
Thank you very much.
Because it's always a pleasure to chat to you. Thank you very much indeed. Right, I've got to take a quick break, but I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie. A very good morning to you. This is your Talkback Hour and, of course, we're talking about Andy Burnham, our new Prime Minister. I seem to be saying that so often at the moment, about having a new Prime Minister. But anyway, hopefully this will be the last one for at least, I don't know, what, 2.5, 3 years? Anyhow, I want to know what you're hoping he will say later on today, because he is apparently going to be giving us some much-needed breathing room with the cost of living. So he's going to provide us with this much-needed breathing room. And from what I've been seeing, it involves bus fares and reducing our heating costs by £86 a year. And whilst, as I said, every little helps, is that too little to help? So I'd just be interested to know, what would give you that breathing room? What do you need to hear from the new Prime Minister? Look, he's swept in, hasn't he, this coronation that has occurred, the most extraordinary thing to happen in politics for quite some time in this country. He said it's all going to be different from now on. We've all got, he wants to give us hope. So the great hope is coming back to this country. And I think if he comes to the country with 86 quid a year off heating bills, it'll be a bit of a damp squib. That's what I think. And I know that we've got no money, but then don't promise big change if you're going to offer little loose change. Do you know what I mean? It just anyway. That's kind of how I'm feeling about it at the moment. But I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. So do give me a ring. Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Alan is in Essex. Good morning, Alan.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, it's just been a mad day, hasn't it?
Bonkers.
It really has. Do you know what? Listen, I really enjoyed you talking to Nigel and everything. But for me, I just feel like the same thing that Andy Burnham says is no substance. He goes, I'm going to do this, no substance. I'm going to end homelessness, no substance. okay, well, I'll take hands off bus fares. No one really, it doesn't really cut through, does it?
No. That's what I'm saying. You've articulated that really well. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of like, well, where's this big change? Where's this sweeping difference?
Do you know what? I'll be completely honest. Like I'm 40, right? I used to be conservative all the way. I am now reform. But when I saw him on the steps of Downing Street earlier, I did think to myself, he's such a good communicator that I think someone that's not interested in politics would listen to him and go, actually, do you know what? I'll give him a go. And
but can I just say, Alan, it's really interesting to me, though, that you say, look, like, as you said, I'm going to end homelessness, but there's no policy decisions around that. But then you say you're a Reform voter, and we don't hear anything from Reform either. They've said we're going to stop the boats, but there's no how, when, how much is that going to cost, when are you going to do it, how are you going to do it? So we don't hear from them either.
And I completely agree. I'm a little bit peed off with Reform because I'm not going to lie, but I am, because all they've said is, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They're fighting these kind of unsubstantiated, unsubstantiated battles where no one actually really cares. Like, I care about politics, and obviously you do, because it's your job. But the layman, they don't know who Andy Burnham is. No. They don't know who Gia Youssef is. No. And I'm just like, sorry.
No, it's just look, we're sick of talk, aren't we? We need action. That's what it is.
And that's why Keir Starmer went, because it was all talk and no action, right? Andy Burnham, standing on them streets today, I feel like he communicated with people that aren't interested in politics. They will turn around and go, do you know what? He sounded really good. He spoke to me, right? I'm going to vote for him if we ever get a general election, but I don't know. Well, it's just a mess. And do you know what? I'm going to ask you this quickly. So my sources in Westminster said to me that Shabana Mahmood was offered Chancellor and she rejected it, and that's why they gave Healy the job.
It wouldn't be a huge surprise, because she had said that she wanted to stay as Home Secretary.
Home Secretary.
Yeah, she wanted to continue as Home Secretary. So they may have been.
He offered it to her, and she said no. I want to stay there. Yeah, that's why she gave it to Healy.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's like you look at what's his name?
Miliband.
Oh, no, sorry, the fat one. Used to be Health Secretary.
Where's Streeting?
Where's Streeting as well. He's got no experience in the job that he's just been given.
Defence, yeah.
What has he ever defended? Except for his 200 people majority in Ilford, he's got no defence whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm surprised that when Healy quit. When Healy quit as defence, was it James Comey that quit as well? Was it? What was the name of the minister that quit at the same time?
I can't remember. It was a minor minister, but it was a really important.
Yeah, it was a really important moment, and he was also an ex-serviceman. And I was thinking, I was expecting him to be elevated into defence.
What's the
Al Carnes? Sorry, it was Al Carnes.
Al Carnes, yes.
Yeah.
That's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they would have put him in defence.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting that.
Army. Shocking. And I think I don't really know what he's doing. I think he's trying to appeal to all the factions at the moment, like Andy Burnham. He's trying to appeal to everyone, but I don't think he's got that much substance.
But you can't be all things to all people. And
all people. And that's great. And that's being a politician. You have to turn around and say, no, my decision. And that's where Keir Starmer went wrong.
Yeah.
But all the people that Burnham's got behind him, like Louise Haig and all them, He's put Angela Rayner in a post. Could you imagine if Reform were in government and put someone that had been done for fraud or something like that in post? There'd be uproars.
Yeah, I mean, both Louise Haigh and Angela Rayner, of course, had to quit under a cloud. I think that Angela Rayner's tax affairs were settled, blah, blah, blah. But still, nonetheless,
it's... but it doesn't... But if it was the other way round, if it was the other way round,
I agree.
Conservative or Reform, they would go mental for it.
Yeah, they really would.
I'll tell you what, let's wait for what's her name, Chulit Sadiq to get a job role. Another person that
that was the housing minister, wasn't it? No, not minister. She was
housing.
That's it. Yeah. She was something to do with housing. Yeah, I think that it is. It's really. It's an interesting cabinet, and he's tried to sort of mix up some sort of new and old, and
which is great, and you should be a bull church, but I feel like he's doing it like for a purpose. Like he's not doing it because he thinks that person is going to be the best person for that role. He's doing it to say, "Oh, look at me, I'm Andy Burnham, and I'm going to put someone right wing in there, someone left wing in there." Do you know what I mean?
That's a really good impression. Yeah, I mean, look, I suppose we've got to hope. Look, all of us want him to do well because we don't want chaos in this country anymore. But I just have a feeling in my gut that I am going to just be really disappointed. That it's just not going to...
I was really worried. When I saw him talking, I thought to myself, do you know what? Like, my party, Reform, I feel like we're a little bit effed, right? Because I feel like he communicates with people really well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But at the same time, I do think that, give it 6 months and we're going to be back in the same place that we was with Starmer and Reeves. Like, we're just going to be, what is this? We won a general election.
I completely agree. I really do. I mean, I hope we're wrong because we cannot do it again. But I have the strong feeling, like you, that he's just, especially when he started today by saying he wants to end homelessness. It's kind of like it's
How? What did he say that he's going to do to end it?
Yeah.
He just said, "I'm going to end it." There was no substance yet again, right? And you got all these little supporters saying, "Oh, Andy Burnham might bring bus fares down by £1." Great, how? You know? And when he says, "Oh, I'm going to what do you call it? Oh, sorry." When he's going to devolve everything.
Oh yeah,
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to devolve? Income tax or council tax? They just turn around and they all go, "Yeah, well, he's going to look after everyone and do this and do that." There's no substance.
Yeah.
There's none there.
Yeah, and he's got a real problem with the right and the left of the party as well. He's going to be upsetting somebody, right, on one side of the party. Yep.
Same as Keir Starmer. That's being a politician. You have to make decisions. You can't sit on the fence all the time. Listen, all I care about is my country, our country that we live in.
Yeah.
Right? And I hope any Prime Minister, whether they're Labour or whatever, as much as I don't like them, I want them to do the best for our country.
Absolutely.
I want us to succeed.
And I think we all feel like that. And we're so used to not succeeding that it would be, I don't care who it is. I wouldn't care who it was that managed to make us feel like we were succeeding again. We've lost all hope, haven't we, Alan? Good to talk to you, Alan. Thank you very much indeed for calling in. I've got to take another quick break, but I will be back in just a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning. This is Talk, and this is Talk Back with me, Petrie, and we're talking about our new Prime Minister and the fact that later on today he is going to be giving you some breathing space, some breathing room from the cost of living crisis. And I'm wondering what it is you want to hear him say. And he also mentioned that he wants hope to return to Britain. Are you feeling more hopeful with Andy Burnham as PM? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. A couple of messages I want to read out here. Gary has said, while Andy Burnham might offer a fresh face, swapping one Labour leader for another won't restore hope in Britain. We desperately need a fundamental change, new policies, accountability, and a genuine focus on what actually works for the British people. And then Mark has said, I think if I were Burnham, I'd be addressing perceived injustices rather than bigging up small offerings on the cost of living. For example, I would make renewal of the TV licence charter conditional on reintroducing free licences for the over 75s paid for by the BBC. I would also end overseas aid, close the department and use that money to take the defence budget to 3%. Well, you might have some bad news on that one, Mark, because there were rumours that he was looking potentially to double the overseas aid budget. We've not heard any firm decisions on that. We won't until September, but that was certainly a mentioned idea for the Burnham government. And Sean has said, I believe Starmer's time was up and I'm a believer in change. However, I don't have any faith in Burnham. To be honest, I'm exhausted by politics. For example, past politicians making promises that they don't keep. I've been a Labour voter all my life. However, at this point, I don't have faith in politics and politicians. And that's from Sean in Liverpool. And Sean, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. That's exactly how I feel about the whole situation as well. It's just kind of, we're tired of it, right? So, and that's why I think that if Andy Burnham comes forward with saving £86 a year on fuel as a big breathing space for the people of this country, I fear that he doesn't quite understand the mess that we're in. I think that that's the point, isn't it? It would be like, huh? Is that really? That's breathing space to you? I mean, I just £7 a month, yeah. I mean, look, every little helps, but is that too little to help everybody, really? So I don't know. I just think I'll go, oh, here we go again. Whereas if he does something big and bold, like moves the tax brackets up, then I might have some belief in him. If he says, right, at the lowest end of tax, you don't start paying tax until you hit 14 grand, 15 grand. That would provide relief for the people he says he wants to provide relief for, and that is the working people. So if he did something like that, I might think, OK, then we're off and running. But if it's, honestly, if it's bus fares and fuel, heating costs, I might think, well, I've lost faith in you already, mate, day one or day two. Anyway, let me know what you think. I mean, maybe I'm being too princessy about it. Maybe, £86 a year really would make the difference for you, and it really would provide you with the breathing room. And capping bus fares as well would actually make a huge difference to your life. Let me know. 0344 499 1000. Paul is in Wolverhampton. Paul, good morning.
Good morning, Petrie. Long time no see.
Long time. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I've had a lot going on, new job, and
how's that going?
Beginning of the year. Yeah, the job's going great. It's totally different, but it's I lost my mum at the beginning of the year as well. So.
Oh, that's tough. I'm sorry.
And I lost 2 friends as well on top of that, and I've just found out that my brother's got bowel cancer. So, yeah.
Oh dear, Paul.
Yeah, it's been a tough one. But
Yeah,
I'm getting
really
there, and I'm
has.
strong. You've got to be,
Good.
haven't you?
You've got to be.
Yeah.
Well, the alternative doesn't bear thinking about, does it? So you've just got to keep
No.
pushing through. Oh, Paul.
Exactly.
I'm sorry to hear all of that, but listen, let's move on to politics, so that you can talk about something other than, because it makes me feel better if I can talk about something other than what's really hurting me at the time. What do you think of Burnham so far? I mean, it's only been a day, I suppose, but do you have hope?
No, to be honest, no.
Yeah.
I don't. I think what we need to do as a society, I think the country is in like one great big depression. I think we need to put money back into hospitality, the high street. We're almost becoming an insular society now. We don't go out, we don't mix anymore, we don't do things, we don't go to parties. People can't afford to go out. I mean, I went to a wedding reception a few months ago. Now, you go to a wedding reception, it's on till about midnight and more. People are still dancing till the end. The drinks were that expensive. People were going on by 10 o'clock.
Wow.
And you can see why, because people cannot afford to go out and enjoy themselves. I mean, everybody, like, at the end of the week, oh, it's Friday, we'll go and meet our friends at the pub, we'll go out for a drink after work. They don't even do it anymore because, you can go, you can buy a gin and tonic, what is a double, is over £10 now. You can practically go and buy a bottle.
I know, and a glass of wine, you know, it's like, hang on a minute, why is that glass of wine 15 quid?
It's ridiculous. And you can buy a couple of bottles.
Yeah, you really can, especially the cheap stuff I drink.
We're all the same.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I agree with you. But how do we, you know, we are partly responsible as well for the high street, aren't we? Because
we are.
I don't really shop in the high street anymore. I prefer to have things delivered. I'm part of the problem with, but I would love to see a vibrant high street. And maybe, I don't know, it's chicken and egg, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same as you know. I used to work in retail.
Yeah.
And I do buy offline. But I've got to be honest, every time I went into a shop to get what I wanted, it was, oh, we haven't got it on sale. And the funny thing was, you'd walk into a shop and you'd say to the assistant, oh, have you got this in a size so-and-so? And they'd turn around and they'd say, oh, go online, we'll have it on there. There was no help. When you see big people like M&S and different things moving out of the high street, it ain't good, is it, really?
No.
You know?
No, I mean, I think we've got to reimagine the high street. I think the high street has probably gone the way of the horse and cart in terms of just evolution, right?
Yeah.
So we have to rethink it. You know, I think we need vibrant hubs for people to go to. I don't think in the future we're going to need shops. I just don't. You know, like I said, it's like the horse and cart. It's just one of those things that, in terms of human evolution, we just don't need that anymore. So we've got to be smarter about, rather than trying to bring back the high street as it was, is to reinvent the high street as something that it will be.
Different, yeah, just get people together again, because I just think we've sort of lost the way, haven't we? Where we're going out and communicating, and you know, it feels quite sad, actually. I think.
I agree, but I also think it's. This sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I do believe that various governments don't want us to go out either. I think they like the fact that we can stay at home and be on computers, and think we're easier to police. You know, there's less if we're all at home of an evening. We're not having accident. You know, not the sort of accident that might see us in the NHS being drunk and falling over. We're not fighting. There's, you know, all of those things, and I do think that there's been a real effort to try and keep us at home, because it's just cheaper if we are. Yeah. So I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I do think there's a drive to sort of make life at home so comfortable we don't go out.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing though, if Angela Rayner comes back into government, I will leave the country.
She is. She's got housing minister.
Oh, God, she hasn't, has she?
She's gone back to the job she had before.
She's a fraudster. She should not be allowed.
Well, she's not. She's not. That was not proved. There was an inquiry into that, and apparently she's settled her tax issues. It was a mistake. I mean, having said that, when I was selling and buying, my lawyer was all over me about stamp duty. I mean, there's no way I could have completed without paying the right stamp duty, and they were on it from, you know, right, this is what you're going to owe in stamp duty. You have to pay that before you can even complete. So don't even think you can't. So how it was, I mean, look, I mean, that's a conversation for another time, but I have to say legally she's not been, you know, everything has been settled in that regard. But I do still think that it's an odd thing to bring, you know, Anne Louise Haig back, who had to resign. Do you remember? I think she had blue hair at the time. She had to resign because of some complication over mobile phones. So they're back in government.
Not a good start, is it?
No, Mandelson will be next.
Yeah, or Emily Thornberry.
Yeah, God knows what's going to happen next.
Oh, God.
I don't know. Look, I just hope we don't get more of the same, and I just fear that we are going to get more of the same. That's.
Yeah, I think you're right, Petrie. I absolutely believe that, yeah.
And we're all fed, and Andy Burnham acknowledged that today in his speech, didn't he? He said, look, you know, people are fed up with politics. We've got a job to do now to get people to trust us again. And it's like, yeah. You absolutely have. Do it.
I think Kemi Badenoch could be waiting for him in the Houses of Commons, won't she?
I'm looking forward to the first PMQs, but that won't be till September. Do you think it's too long to wait for policies from Andy Burnham to wait for 5 weeks?
Yeah, we need to start the ball rolling now.
I agree.
We can't sit on our laurels any longer. This country is in a mess.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he should go on holiday. I think he should be banging out policies and telling us how it's all costed.
I mean, years ago, Maggie Thatcher and all them others, they'd come off their holidays to sort.
This is a crisis. We're at a crisis, and they're all going on holiday.
Yeah, with his money.
Yeah, well, yeah, no. He's set to become very, very rich, isn't he, now that he's Prime Minister? Paul, good to talk to you. Sending you my love, and I hope your brother's going to be OK. Just before I go to the break, we were talking with Cody about rare identical quadruplets born in Australia. So this is one egg that's split into 4 embryos, so it's incredibly rare. And Carol has said, our daughter blessed us with triplets. They're now 5 and an absolute joy to be around. We have a Miss Prim, a bossy madam, and a OK, whatever. I love that. And a picture of 3 beautiful girls. I bet they're real trouble. I just know they're trouble. I can see it by looking at them. But they are beautiful. Thank you for that, Carol. I've got to take a quick break. I'll be back in a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is Talk, it's Petrie, and this is your Talk Back Hour. And we are going to be talking back until the top of the hour. Some more messages here. Andrew in Salisbury said, Andy Burnham sounds like a contestant for Miss World. I want to end homelessness, put hope in every heart and world peace. He does sound... yeah, I do take your point. It does sound a bit like I was saying to Cody earlier on. It sounds a bit idealistic. Is perhaps the term I would generously use. And then he says, Andrew says, what I want from Andy Burnham government is an immediate general election that will help me and everyone else. Well, was it Boris Johnson called one after about 9 months, I think? And I think Theresa May did the same thing, but she grossly miscalculated that. She lost a majority. But Andy Burnham's not going to call an election. Not unless he has to. And that will mean that he has failed beyond redemption, right? He's not going to call an election. And that hypocrisy is also something that really annoys me because, of course, he was calling every time the Tories changed leader without a general election, he was calling for a general election. And then suddenly when it's him, they don't call for an election. And he's not going to call for an election, so it's just not going to happen. And Amanda says what she wants to hear is drill, Andy, drill. To bring energy prices down. Sadly, Amanda, that won't bring energy prices down because anything we get out of those, out of drilling, will be sold onto the international market because actually it belongs to the oil companies at that stage. However, there is a caveat. What it does provide, if Andy does do drill, Andy, drill, then it provides the money that we get from the licensing of that drilling into the exchequer. So we do make money from that. And, of course, people working on those mines will be paying tax. So that will also bring money into the exchequer. So while it won't lower fuel prices in this country, because it won't, we don't own that, because the oil companies pay the government a licence to drill, and then they own what they get out of the ground, basically, and they sell it on the international market. But, like I said, we do get the value of the licences into the exchequer and, of course, the value of tax being paid on the workers that work on those sites. So, what are you hoping to hear from Andy Burnham today, later on today? He's going to come forward with breathing space for us all. And from what I've been reading and what I understand is that the idea is to help us with heating bills to the tune of £86 a year and cap bus fares. Is that going to do it for you? Is that going to give you that hope? Is that going to make you go, oh, great, that. I really hope I believe him now. I think this is all going to change. I think I'll just be a bit about it all, to be honest with you. John is in Staffordshire. Good morning, John. What do you hope to hear from... Good morning. What are you hoping to hear from Burnham tomorrow?
Well, I agree with you, the earlier caller, Alan. Burnham has said absolutely nothing of substance whatsoever. He's not mentioned anything about immigration.
No, nothing.
He's not mentioned anything about how we stand with the European Court of Human Rights. He's not mentioned anything at all about self-sufficiency in the country. And as far as I can see, he's not mentioned anything about public services and improving them.
I mean, to cut him some slack, he's only been Prime Minister, not even 24 hours, right? So he's, you know, and it would have been rude for him to start delivering policies before he'd become Prime Minister. But, and we're not going to hear any of this, by the way, John, until September.
I totally agree with you, Petrie. He's on about going back to the 1980s. Well, maybe we should go back to the 1980s a little bit. Because when I was growing up in the 1980s, you couldn't be on the dole for more than 2 years.
Oh, is that right?
As far as I remember, yes. I think if you were on the dole for more than 2 years, after your 2 years were up, you never got any more benefits.
I mean, I've always said that what they should do with benefits for young people is say between the ages of 18 and 25, you're entitled to 2 years' worth of benefits. Wherever you take those 2 years, that's up to you. But, you know, if you take it at the beginning, then you need to be finding a job. Do you see what I mean? Because they haven't paid in, so they would only get that. So they would get help when they needed it, but then they would be pushed into getting jobs around that.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think he's made a massive mistake as well in public opinion because he's appointed Rayner and Haig back into government, and they are both. Well, I'm not going to say what I think they are, but
well, they're political damaged goods.
Yes,
I would say. The best way to put it, really. Yeah, they're politically damaged goods because, in a sense, they both had to resign, having been found to have done something wrong.
Exactly.
So, you know, even though, you know, I have to reiterate again, Angela Rayner said that she's been negotiating with HMRC, everything's been paid now, everything's fine. So, you know, everything's been cleared up. But I think politically they're damaged by what we know of them. That's what I think. But they were his great pals in Manchester.
I totally agree. And I also find it absolutely bizarre in this current climate that nobody is mentioning investing more in our services, as in emergency services like the police, the ambulance and the fire brigade, because they are absolutely on their backside.
They really are, yeah. I mean, we've got to give him a bit of a chance, right? Because nobody wants. I don't want to see him fail, but I already feel disappointed. and because I fear that he's going to come to us tomorrow and say, I'm going to help you out, I'm going to really, this is your breathing space that you need in this cost of living crisis. And if he offers what I think he's going to offer, it's going to be, well, you're out of touch, mate. How do you think that gives anybody real breathing space?
Well, I don't think 86 quid is going to help anybody over a year.
Not over a year. If it was 86 quid a month, maybe.
It's 2 days down the pub, really, if you want to put it that way, isn't it? Or it's 2 nights out down the pub, really. It's going to make no difference whatsoever. I mean, we don't even know his policy on, like, the North Sea, really.
No, we've heard rumours that he's going to. I mean, I think, for what it's worth, I think the moving of Ed Miliband, and I do think he might issue new licences.
I think the fact that Ed Miliband, and I've got to say this is my personal opinion, I think the fact that Ed Miliband is being farmed off to be Foreign Minister, I don't know. That's either a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, but he's been taken away from net zero, or whatever his department was called, energy, hasn't he? So I think that I think if that is what Andy Burnham comes to us with later on today, that he's not read the room. That's
no, totally. I mean, David Miliband used to be my hometown's local politician.
He was a really good politician, yeah.
He was very good.
He was really good. He was the better of the two brothers, without a doubt.
I'll say it on telly. I think Ed Miliband is crackers.
I think that there's a lot of ego propping up Mr. Miliband, Ed. And I think that David was always the better politician, always the better one.
Because I'll say this, Ed Miliband stabbed his brother not in the back, in the chest.
Really. Apparently, I don't even know if they're talking yet.
Well, if I was David Miliband, I don't think I would be, but there you go. That's up to him, really. But, yeah, I personally think it's... we've not heard anything of substance yet.
And we won't until September. I think that's too long.
No, so do I. I think if you're going to put yourself up as Prime Minister, you have to lay your cards on the table.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He needs to do it straight away, because otherwise we're just going to... it's just going to be this vacuum of nothingness, isn't it?
Well, personally, I think we should have had a general election, or we should have one very soon. I'm quite glad that Andy Burnham, personally, has decided to do what he's done.